Good. All right. Let's go ahead and call to order the Zionsville Plan Commission meeting of September 15th. Please rise. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mike, would you please take the roll?
Andrew Cossack, absent. Brad Johnson.
Here.
David Franz.
Present.
Jim Hurst.
Present.
Josh Fedor is absent. Kendrick Davis.
Present.
Nick Plopper.
Present.
All right, so we do have a quorum of 5. In your packet was a set of minutes from the August 18th, 2025 meeting. Is there any comments, additions, deletions to those minutes?
I move we accept the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. Minutes are passed. On to continued business from last month. Docket number 2025-53Z, Maple Lane LLC, Maple Lane Club of Bradley Ridge PUD rezoning 1755 South US Highway 421, Zionsville, change of zoning for 181.52 acres from the Rural General Agricultural AG District to a planned unit development PUD for a mixed-use development including agricultural, residential, low-intensity commercial, and a nonprofit operation.
Mr. Franz, I'll need to recuse myself.
Okay, all right, thank you. That leaves 4. We still have a quorum, but if there is anything that's voted on tonight, it will take a unanimous vote for it to pass, or it's automatically continued. Roger, do you have this one?
Yes, sir. Thank you. As mentioned, this is a requested rezoning of 181 acres from the Rural General Ag District to the PUD for a mixed-use development, including agricultural, residential, low-intensity commercial, and a nonprofit organization. On the screen in front of you is a location map, and for orientation, the subject site is outlined in white. It is bordered on the western edge by US 421, also known as Michigan Road. Along the southern boundary by County Road 200 South. This entire area is currently zoned as rural ag, with ag surrounding it to the north, to the east, and to the south. To the west, on the opposite side of Michigan Road, we have a small section of ag, of existing residences, but then to the north, this area has been rezoned to the PUD. That is the Bradley Ridge development. The requested petitioner seeks to rezone the subject site to the PUD. The maximum number of dwellings within this PUD would be 360, with 24 of those dwellings being exclusively for a private 501c3 serving high-functioning adults with intellectual disabilities. The PUD site would be divided into the following 6 use blocks. And on the screen in front of you is the updated use block plan. This was received this morning, so apologize that that is not in your packet, but do have it here this evening. First of all, the first use block is known as the Founders Grove use block, which is this larger area. No more than 159 residences would be permitted on this use block. The minimum lot area would be 10,800 square feet. The Heritage Hill use block, which is this area, which does have frontage on US 421. Again, single-family dwellings would be permitted here. No more than 97 residences would be permitted within this use block, and the minimum lot area would be 8,700 square feet. The Pine Gate use block, which is this lighter brown area here, as well as this area, would also permit single-family dwellings. No more than 80 residences would be permitted in this use block, and the minimum lot within this block would be 6,600 square feet. In the middle of the development is a community amenity use block. which would include recreational and certain agricultural uses. No form of residential use would be permitted within this block. Again, it's here in the middle. The Watch Us Farm use block, here located in the southeastern corner of the overall PUD. Again, Watch Us Farm is a private 501c3. This use block is intended to provide a campus for Watch Us Farm. This campus would permit a maximum of 24 residential dwellings that most likely would be constructed within duplexes or triplexes for those adults employed with Watch Us Farm. Agricultural and community uses such as vocational training buildings, greenhouses, gardens, orchards, and event barn, animal barn and pasture, walking paths and pumpkin patches, and athletic fields would be developed in this area. The last use block is here on the southwestern corner of the development, which is, sorry to use multiple directions here, but is located on the northeastern corner of the intersection of 421 and County Road 200 South. Uses within this block would include neighborhood commercial, professional office uses, retail uses, and possibly single-family dwellings as set forth in the PUD's table. Possible number of dwellings within this use block is not specified, but the PUD ordinance does state that for each lot within this Maple Lane Commons use block, a lot would be removed from the Founders Grove use block, the Heritage Hill use block, or the Pine Gate use block, so that the aggregate number of single-family lots within the entire development would still not exceed 336. The development standards for the single-family lots within this use block would be the same as those standards of the Pine Gate use block, which means the minimum lot area would be 6,600 square feet. Topics of interest for this, again, when any rezoning is being requested, Indiana code states that you must give reasonable regard to the following 5 items. First is the comprehensive plan. Second is current conditions and the character of current structures and uses within each district. Third is the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted. 4, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. And 5, responsible growth and development. Within the subject site is within Union Township. However, the township's future land use map was amended with the adoption of the airport area land use plan, known as the airport plan, in January 18th of 2022. The airport plan identifies a mixed-use campus housing district for the entirety of this site, and I have this outlined on the screen in front of you. Again, the subject site is here outlined in red, noting that it's a mixed-use campus housing district. The mixed-use district is intended to consist of low-rise campus-style housing and supportive uses, and while not within a runway protection zone or approach area, this district will still be subject to noise from frequent overflight. The primary development of the site is intended to be low-rise, attached campus-style housing following a traditional urban form. Uses may include supportive and low-intensity commercial, also following a traditional urban form. Additionally, this district can include agriculture and agritourism uses as an extension of adjacent districts. With these future land use recommendations in mind, the proposed mixed-use development in some areas of the PUD, it does align with the mixed-use campus housing district of the airport plan, while in other areas it does not align. In staff's opinion, the proposed uses of the Maple Lanes Commons use block and the Watch Us Farm use block are consistent with the airport plan's recommendation. However, the single-family uses within the Founders Grove use block, the Heritage Hills use block, and the Pine Gate use block do not align with the recommendations of the airport plan. It should be noted that 336 or 93% of the possible 360 living units within the overall PUD would be single-family residences. Also within the airport plan is the residential development compatibility map. from this map, the entire subject site is within Tier 3. Tier 3 recommends to limit residential to multifamily housing types and minor subdivisions of existing residential lots. The residential component of the Watchus Grow Use Block does, in staff's opinion, meet this recommendation. However, the proposed single-family residential uses within the Founders Grove Use Block, the Heritage Hill Use Block, the Pine Gate Use Block, and the possible extension of single-family dwellings into the Maple Lanes Commons Use Block, it does not meet the recommendation of Tier 3. Under the consideration factor of current conditions and character of current uses, structures, the retail, commercial, and office uses which could be developed within the Maple Lanes Commons Use Block, being on the corner of the intersection of County Road 200 South and US 421, would be an appropriate location for these mixed uses. The uses proposed within the Watchus Farm Use Block would be a complementary extension of the agricultural nature of the existing properties to the east and south of the site. However, the gross density of the overall development of 1.98 units per acre is greater than that of any nearby existing or proposed residential subdivisions. The proposed Maple Lane Club of Bradley Ridge PUD meets many of the design principles for a PUD, but the density of the development and the development standards would not be in harmony with its surrounding neighborhood and the town's comprehensive plan. For these reasons, staff cannot support this proposal. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Roger. At this point, petitioner.
Good evening, members of the Plan Commission. My name is Kyle Russateritz, attorney with Denton's at 10 West Market Street in Indianapolis. I'm thrilled to present to you this evening the rezone petition for the Maple Lane Club of Bradley Ridge on behalf of my client, Henke Development Group. Maple Lane Club of Bradley Ridge is a one-of-a-kind development that will embrace and promote the integration of agriculture, farming, and agritourism into the daily lives of residents and visitors of the community, creating real opportunities for that community to support each other and to grow together. That opportunity is made possible by incorporating the mission of Watchus Farm. Watchus Farm is a well-respected nonprofit organization that serves to empower adults with intellectual and development needs. It is Henke's mission to create a neighborhood and space that embraces everyone and gives families, individuals, and neighbors a place to belong and a place to contribute. I'm joined this evening by Betsy Henke Garfield and Doug Fleener with Henke Development. Steve Henke, the owner, as well as developer Brad Henke, join us virtually. We are most excited and proud to have Janice Agarwal, Executive Director of Watchus Farm, with us tonight as well. Janice and her husband, David, founded the Watchus Farm organization in 2018, and they already have deep roots in the town of Zionsville, living and operating their existing farm just west of the subject property along County Road 200. In just a moment, we'll hear from Betsy and Janice, who will share more about the collaboration, as well as the partnership between Henke and Watchus Farm, their combined goals for Maple Lane Club of Bradley Ridge, and how the community can be an example to everyone of the great things this town can achieve when new development embraces opportunities to volunteer, promotes thoughtful connectivity between living, recreation, education, and agricultural spaces, and creates interaction between neighbors throughout the day and each and every day. Thank you to Roger for your introduction of this petition. To further orient the Plan Commission, I'll direct you to view the map that highlights the wonderful development that has already occurred and will continue to progress along the US 421 corridor, beginning with Holiday Farms, one of Henke's premier developments, and continuing north all the way to the northwest quadrant of 421 and County Road 200, where we find Henke's first phases of its vision, that is Bradley Ridge. Outlined in a dark blue color and marked with its name in the northeast quadrant of that intersection, you'll find Maple Lane Club of Bradley Ridge. As Roger just presented to you, the PUD ordinance before you this evening establishes 6 distinct use blocks and a use block plan, the current version of which is on the screen. I won't belabor this slide, as Roger just did a great job of executing an explanation of the different use blocks, but I want to point your attention to that southeast corridor, the Watchus Farm use block, thoughtfully placed adjacent to the community amenity area of the development, and the southwest corner of the development, the Maple Lane Commons, beginning from there, traversing north through the development, extending through the landscape that is offered by this beautiful piece of property. To better visualize and illustrate each of these use blocks within the community, we can turn to the concept plan affixed to the ordinance, the latest version of which is shared on the screen, where in more detail, we can see the interaction between agriculture, recreation, home life, and a neighborhood marketplace. Betsy will join the conversation now to speak to Hinkie's purposeful design of the neighborhood and the steps taken to bring this to life. Following Betsy's comments, Janice can share with you the impact this development will have on Watchus Farm and the impact it will have on the town of Zionsville.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Kyle. As mentioned, my name is Betsy Hinkie Garfield. I'm with Hinkie Development Group. Excuse me. I just wanted to say, thank you to all of you. Thank you to staff, and more importantly, thank you to the Watchus Farm team, as well as the numerous neighbors that spent, I think, 2.5, 3+ hours with us here and not just formal presentation, but in open dialogue, and really provided us with a ton of the changes that you now see compared to earlier versions, as well as a lot of input from the community for which this will serve, which will be everyone. And so with that, I'm incredibly honored to be presenting this project. It is something that is unequivocally very special to not only our company, but to what we believe will be such an important mark in development, in real estate development, not only here in Zionsville, but really setting a mark, nationwide. And this is a project that started, probably 6 or 7 years ago when Janice and her team, first approached us. And it was then that we learned what Watchus Farm their mission was all about, and serving people that are often not served in this community and incorporated. And so for the last 6 or 7 years, we have not let that thought go. And we have constantly thought about where it would make sense. And we are beyond proud to be able to find not only a beautiful piece of property to help this initiative expand, but to do it in a way that's intentional. If you're familiar with our other projects, that is something we truly do value. We comb 1800s plats to find original owners. We try to find out the history. I've read too many versions of the Boone County Reporter from the 1800s to try to find little bits and pieces that tell the story of a property. My eyes probably have suffered a lot from zooming into those pages, but those things really do matter to us. Our intentionality is coming forth today because this is a project that we really believe in. We know that in order to have a successful community that caters to adults with intellectual disabilities and is catering to vocational learning, you have to have the community involved. And so what you see before you is not only a way to integrate everyone, but it's also a way to create moments for those that have needs, that don't have needs, that are looking to volunteer, that are looking to be a part of something really special and unique. But it also is simply just creating community that's fully integrated. We've really taken into account the property. We've incorporated ways to blend into this beautiful agricultural land and to really incorporate that into what Watchus Farm is planning as they expand into this property. So we often feel incredibly proud and blessed to be in the company of working with IU, Purdue, people throughout our state that are looking to us, to Zionsville, to really be leaders. And so with that, we are, really, really excited to bring this forth, and again, appreciate all of those that are here that have helped to get this to this point. So with that, I'll introduce Janice, and she can share a little bit more about the Watch Us Farm component that we've incorporated here.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. I'm going to give you a little history because I think it's kind of important.
Name and address, please.
Yes, my name is Janice Agarwal. I live at 9906 East, 200 South in Zionsville, where we've been a resident here in Zionsville for about 25 years. I'm a pediatric physical therapist by trade, and I thought I had the coolest job in the world because I get to use to work with families that bring home these kids with disabilities, which currently is about 12 to 15% in our community. And I got to teach parents how to love those babies, because when a parent comes home with a kid with a disability, all their dreams go out the window. Everything they ever wanted and dreamed about for that child has changed. And I got to be a part of that. In 1999, we had our own kid. Not a club I wanted to be in, but that's where we were. And my husband and I always have a deal that my dad used to say, you don't complain, come up with a solution. So we made that decision at that time that we were going to start helping families. I became part of a national organization. I started writing articles and teaching parents how to work with their children and therapists how to work with their children, and we went national with that. And as my son grew up, I went internationally. And as my son grew older and older, that international, they started to invite me to campuses throughout Europe. And what they do in Europe is they have the most beautiful property ever. And then they build housing that is so beautiful that you would want your child in that housing, the housing that you dreamed of for your child. And they build vocational centers, and they bring major corporations, and they start teaching these kids how to have jobs. Not just jobs that will be on the campus, but then they can take some of those jobs off campuses, depending on the work environment that those kids need, because they become more individualistic. They have beautiful ag centers. They have you'll see companies bring in chapels and industrial kitchens. And why do they do this? They do it because they want to support their children, their daughter, their son, maybe their niece or nephew. Maybe it's their best friend's kid, or maybe it's your grandchildren or your great-grandchildren, as we look at these, our 3 and 4 generations. Because in these communities, they have made the decision that they're going to support their own community. So what we did, we started it. We started in 2018, we started Watch Us Farm. I started speaking with the Hankies. We started to learn which lane we were going to be on, and we started to learn how we would teach our adults. And the results have been great, but the community's acceptance of that has been resoundingly, overwhelmingly wonderful. Steve Hankey came up to me about a year ago and said, I want to talk to you and your husband. And he came out to our house, and he said, I don't have kids with disabilities, and I don't have any grandchildren with disabilities. How blessed am I? But we see these kids with disabilities, and we want to help. We want to help you guys. And he laid out a plan of a guy who actually saw these invisible kids. Do you realize that 98% of the funding for our children ends the day they finish high school? What happens after that? Most of them have to stay in their parents' houses, playing Dungeons and Dragons, and if they find housing, the housing, first off, isn't around here, unless you're very, very independent, but it's group homes. Is that what you wanted for your children? No jobs, nothing? 2%, if that, go to these kids. But most of the kids that we serve are so high functioning, they can finish high school, they can go to college, but they're a little quirky, and maybe they need a little help. This is our community. That's what our community looks like. And Steve laid out, he heard what I was talking about. I wanted this ag tourism. I wanted to bring our community in. I wanted it to be a center of excellence. We went to IU, the Indiana University community. They had a grant for vocational training in Boone County. We wrote them an LOI, and they said, come talk to us. We wrote a big grant out and told them that we wanted to build this vocational center that not only will serve children and adults with intellectual disability, but high school kids that are coming out that want to do something a little different than go to college. So that will be a community integration into this. Indiana University said to me, in this grant that was for health disparities, those people that need that hand up. So why would we do it in Zionsville? And we explained to them that in order to build a pilot program, you had to pick a community that can support it. Do you realize Zionsville has the largest Best Buddies in the country? Do you realize that this town has the ability to not only build, but support? And we will only take that farther. As we become that center of excellence, we will be able to bring kids in. We will be able to change minds of these high school and college kids that don't know what they want to do. We have found over the 40 years of doing something less. My husband is an interventional radiologist. We have found how many people didn't know that they wanted to go and become therapists or doctors or in some kind of other field because they'd never had the opportunity to work with those kids. We then went up to Purdue University Agriculture School. We talked about becoming that center of excellence. How can we take Purdue and their ideas, their professors and their grad students and students that can help us out? And they have committed to the fact that they're going to help us design, implement, and build and run about 8 greenhouses, along with all of the orchards and the fields that we're going to be planting. They're helping us design this so that when you walk onto this campus, you experience something, I want to say magical, but for those families that have those kids with disabilities and the siblings, it is magical because they feel welcomed. So we will become that center of excellence that allows some of our high school kids to come in and be a part of that. We will become that little shining star on a hill. But that's a big deal in this because what's happening with that, oh, and we'll have housing, which is something we very, very much lack for the people that work for us. So those are kids, because transportation is really hard, housing's even harder. What does this do? This is going to take us to a different planet. And the reason I say that is I've already had California. I was at an international conference in February when a whole group of people from Utah came out and said, we've already raised $10 million. We want to take this idea and we want to move it there. I just had someone near the Mayo Clinic, a Hormel Foundation, and said, we want this in Minnesota. Currently, our greenhouses, very similar, are out in Ohio. Because once people see that we can do this, we can take this kind of a program and move it around. A couple months ago, Don Lamb with the ISDA, the Indiana USDA, said, can we do something like this in Speedway or here? Well, that's why Indiana University gave us that grant, because we can take this ideal and we take the people that come onto our campuses and train and we can send them out. But why do we have to be a part of a development? I think that's a really important part, because oftentimes we isolate these people with intellectual disabilities. And again, what they do in Europe is they integrate, totally different. My best volunteers are local people. I've had volunteers forever. What I envision, this amazing development around us, this golf cart is what we like, is that we will be sharing our athletic fields and some of our different amenities. They will be able to come onto our campuses, a very safe campus, and they can go walking and they can learn. And they can be a part of that. Our produce, do you know we feed many of our pantries, but we have some of the most nutrient-dense food. But what makes our food different is that people with immune-suppressed systems or people with cancer can eat our food because it's so clean. And that's going to be communities that are starting to look for where their food comes. And where does their food come from? It's going to be coming from people with intellectual disabilities and Purdue University. What we're doing is we're creating something that a lot of people want to replicate, but only can we do that in Zionsville, and only can we do it in a community setting where we can draw from the people around us that can help us build this. So what I want from you is a yes. I think this is going to be something that's a lot bigger than all of us. When I get these phone calls, when I just got that phone call from Minnesota, when I get phone calls from families, they say thank you. When that parent has that newborn baby and it's overwhelming, I knew a lot. I never knew how hard it was. I want them to be able to call us, to be able that center of excellence where waiver providers will get bigger. We will be able to help them. We've got their backs. When those young families and those siblings need a place to go, their siblings are really struggling because they have no place to go because the parents can't go because of the child with disability. I want them to come to watch us farm. I want everyone to be able to come to our fall festivals, to learn, to be a part, to see what their community really looks like, and to realize that we all are a part of this, and we look a little different. We all look a little different. I'm a little quirky, and it's okay. but I want this to be who we are. I've been in this community for 25 years. I love this community. My son has grown up in this community. Alex, my other son, he is Mr. Congeniality. I think he knows more people than I do. But he doesn't get to play with them and hang out with them anymore unless we do something like this. When they leave high school, I want that just to be one more step so that they can stay part of this community and be a part of this community, integrated. So I'm encouraging the yes, but I also want you to see the vision, because I think this is going to grow, and I think it's going to take off, and I think this is going to make Zionsville a little bit different, because we are going to be the engineers, the people that orchestrate how this moves across our country. Thank you.
So, as you can see, our relationship with Watches Farm has continued to, for lack of a better word, grow. It really is something that can be absolutely transforming for this community and all of the communities that are around us. And so what does that community look like? We have, as I mentioned before, we've definitely taken into consideration a lot of the input from our surrounding neighbors. It is an agricultural area. It has beautiful rolling fields, and that's something that we want to come through. We don't want people to come to this place and it not feel, authentic to that land. When Roger was talking about defining aspects of a PUD, property value certainly going to be intact here and rising, but the intentionality of blending into a landscape, and that is something that we obviously set out to do and have even just continued to increase as we've worked with neighbors that are around us. As you can see here, a lot of this really evokes our vision for the Watches Farm component. We've incorporated, like she mentioned, they'll have numerous greenhouses, they'll have open pastures. We want it to feel, welcoming. We want it to feel agricultural. There will be a very strong attention to architectural control that we will work to oversee, just like we do in all of our communities. We review every single house, every single landscape plan, and we will not stop doing that. And then this bottom left indicates, these are just conceptual, but as Janice mentioned, a place for people to come, so on that corner, that's where we see the ability to have an actual market that people can come to that might have a dining component or, come up farm to table, but it's come as you are, it's come as you are, it's come learn from them, come teach, come be involved, but really, it starts to become this nexus of where people can meet up. And so this really just demonstrates a lot of the components that we would be, incorporating, working with them to include in that project. High-end homes. We will have a large attention to detail in terms of landscaping, setbacks, materials used, variation in style. We want it to feel very, very much blended in with the agricultural feel that will be south of it. A lot of that, as you see in the conceptual plan from our surrounding neighbors, we've reoriented houses to front the road, to incorporate some of those agricultural feel, a lot of native plantings. We're always utilizing that in our common spaces, and that won't be an exception here. So, and then as she mentioned as well, we will incorporate a meeting spot in the middle, and that is a large area of community fields. On the conceptual plan, we always lay things out to see generally what will fit, but this is something that we will continue to work with them and really integrate sports that make sense and field spaces. There's so much innovation in this space, and that's what's really exciting is we get to jump in and be a part of that. Whether it's turf, whether it's fishing ponds, whether there are unique components that might help so many kids. I think that was something we learned from TAC. It was maybe the first TAC meeting I've been to where it wasn't just engineering talk. It was, members from the police and fire department here who knew of new things that would be appealing to those with sensory issues, with disabled issues, knowing that families, will be looking for those things. And then as we're continuing, this is all kind of in that marketplace area on the corner. We want these to have low profiles. We don't want these to be giant big boxes. We want really the farm to, to stand out. And that's going to be incredibly important, that these things, that they blend in. And you'll see that we've taken a lot of time in making sure that, there aren't faux materials used and that there's landscaping incorporated into all four sides of commercial. And that is definitely what we envision for this area. It's very neighborhood driven, and it's intended to be a convenient place for those in the area. And so with that kind of brings our community a little bit full circle. It gives you a little bit of a sense of what we see there. We plan to, fully execute on that as well. And we know that these components together will make for a really high quality development that sets a precedent for this area and will blend really well into the development that we have across the street, as well as a lot of the rolling landscape in the area. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Betsy. Members of the Plan Commission, we will close our presentation by really wanting to highlight the engagement, as Betsy just did, the engagement of staff, but as well as the engagement and the collaboration and the constructive feedback received from the community at large. We thought it would be helpful for the members of the Plan Commission, the general public, to spend a few minutes for us to highlight and show you how the project has improved since the initial filing in late June, and as well as that neighborhood meeting in early August. The decrease in the overall density being and the lowering of the maximum building height being two of the elements of the initial proposal that gained the most interest both from the community at large, neighbors, as well as staff. I want to highlight the difference between the initial proposal and the revised proposal before you today. A maximum of 425 dwelling units initially, reduced now to 360 dwelling units, as Roger explained in his initial presentation, but really even a fewer number of single-family lots at 336, as there will be 24 Watchus Farm units highlighted by Janice during her part of the presentation, and the main reduction there being the removal of townhomes. Those townhomes were slated for the neighborhood market use block there, receiving negative feedback from during the neighborhood meeting and similar conversations, really that not being a product type well received by neighbors of this community. And so the development team has removed that from the PUD altogether. You'll actually see on the permitted use table as an exhibit to the ordinance, the row that allows for townhomes has permitted uses completely removed from that, the marker of P for permitted uses. I'll go through the remainder quickly here, but really 3 and 4 and even 10 relate to relocation or reconfiguration of either the Watchus Farm barn or the direction of homes fronting County Road 200 or US 421, to make sure that those are either front facing on County Road 200 or removing the rear facing homes on US 421 entirely, creating that buffer area for vehicular traffic or pedestrian traffic along the walkways on 421 and County Road 200, being that natural progression west to east as you enter the more traditional agricultural uses to the east. Relocation of retention pond along that 421 corridor is in direct response to staff and engineering comments on the town side. We've met regularly multiple times of late with utilities addressing sewer comments, and Maple Lane Club of Bradley Ridge is that natural progression from a sewer perspective across 421, with the sewers on the first phases of Bradley Ridge being sized appropriately so that this vision as we move west to east across to Maple Lane Club can be appropriately sized and developed. And of course, number 8 and 9 in direct response to initial comments from the airport land use plan as well as needs with respect to traffic being delivering those 2 items here. We thank you for your time and consideration this evening. Betsy, Janice, and I are certainly here and happy to answer any questions. There's engineering folks on the team, as I mentioned earlier, Steve and Brad being available virtually. In closing, we believe Maple Lane Club of Zionsville will be an excellent project for this corridor of Zionsville and the community at large, and it will shine a spotlight not only on this neighborhood, but the inclusivity and the thoughtfulness of Zionsville's leaders and its residents. Thanks for your time this evening.
All right, thank you very much. At this point in time, I'd like to open up the public hearing. With that, is there anybody from the public who'd like to speak on this matter? And please state your name and address.
My name is Craig Cantner. I live at 11750 East, 200 South. Positive stuff. Really impressed with Hanky and how they have listened to the community. I've met Janice and her community. I am for Janice. I am for our community. And I think for once we've had a developer that has respected us rural folks and what we desire. We just went through another sort of developer that came through and I don't think did that. So I really do commend Hanky on that. I know there were a couple objections with how a few things on this development might interfere with a couple things that were with the airport. I remember when that thing was pushed through during COVID, and I just want to ask this. I know that airport expansion doesn't have a ton of engineering and hardcore development behind it yet, and I know it's very fluid. And so on those certain things where this might not fit in, development, density, things like that, I just ask that you consider that, because I know that airport expansion is not set in concrete right now, that everything is set and it's immovable. And so the nice thing about it is everybody else has been flexible, and they've really listened to the community. And so my wife and I are invested in this. We keep our property up. We try to keep it according to what that community expects, which I would say hobby farm and rural. And I just wish that you'd allow the community and the developers to do the same.
All right, thank you.
Greg Holbrook, 1945, South 1100 East. I love the Watches Farm component of this. I also like the housing a whole lot better than campus-style housing. But there's a huge but with this development. I've talked with Mr. Fleener a couple of times, and they told us that they believe most of the people in this subdivision will want to go on 146 towards Carmel and Westfield. They also told us they believe that most of those people will turn left onto Michigan Road to go down to 300 South to go that way. But you see an entrance on 200 South accessible to all those people. Would you turn left onto Michigan Road when you can go down to 200 South, head east over to 1200 East, or over to Little Eagle Creek to get down to 146th Street? They acknowledge there will be some increase in traffic, but they said the majority of traffic will go out Michigan Road, and a majority of the traffic will be going to 146th Street. I do not find it credible that those people will not go on 200 South to get over to 146th Street. It just does not make sense. I suggested to them they consider something like an emergency exit or entrance, because they said, fire and police want an entrance there. But Von Terra down on Zionsville Road, they have an entrance gated off. It is emergency access only. There are ways to keep all those people from going on 200 South, and it really shouldn't interfere with any of the residents if they truly intend to go out Michigan Road. But I do not believe for a minute those residents are going to go out on Michigan Road. They're going to go on 200 South. Another way to address it would be to reduce the density. The density at 1.9 sets a precedent for what that property to the south is going to be. They mentioned that agriculture area to the south. We know that agriculture area to the south is not going to develop. We were here recently, and the big discussion was on density for that development. So that is not staying agriculture, and those people are going to go on 200 South as well. So we must give attention to what the traffic is going to go do for 200 South when all those people head east to get to either 1200 East or Little Eagle Creek. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Melissa McCullough, and I have lived at 11688 East 200 South here in Zionsville for over 20 years. I am respectfully asking that you vote no on the Maple Lane Club development at this time. I say this because I firmly believe we should not throw in the towel or raise the surrender flag until we are certain that this and any other developments that happen along East 200 South and onto our north are in exact comparison with the existing homes and homesteads in this area. I am not ready to sell out. I do not want to sell out on mindfully managing these ensuing developments. This is so we can confidently maintain our agricultural heritage and preserve our rural Zionsville. Just like Save Rural Zionsville, I would like to see this development be compatible with the surrounding area. I also want to ensure that Zionsville continues to be welcoming as a cozy small town with a historic village feel, where life seems to slow down and history meets home, which is the description of Zionsville on the website aroundzionsville.com. Currently, Zionsville ranks 4th for safest cities in Indiana by SafeWise. Our high school is 4th in the state for top schools by U.S. News and World Report, and onlyinyourstate.com states that Zionsville truly embodies the vibe of the Midwest. Small, walkable, and ridiculously friendly. How do we continue that stellar reputation and way of life? Wise development. Let's use Bradley Ridge and our current homes along East 200 South as our standard, our guideline, our goal for any development proposals in the rural areas. The current proposed Maple Lane Club development does not meet either of those standards. At 1.9 units per acre, the Maple Lane Club is far more dense than our large acre homes, as Michelle Stark detailed in her letter to this commission on September 12th. The median home lot size in this area is 3.7 acres per home, with an average of 18.2 acres per home in the immediate area surrounding this proposed PUD. It's also denser than the 0.83 units per acre of the Bradley Ridge neighborhood. Tim Robkin also shares in his letter to the commission regarding Maple Lane that the density of this project is too high, but he supports density like that of the recently approved Bradley Ridge. The letter to the commission from Sherry Leffler states the same. Overall density is still very high for this area compared to other existing developments and properties. She also asks that the density be lower. So, representing my family and rural Zionsville, I respectfully request that you vote no on the Maple Lane proposal until the density can be altered to resemble the current home lot sizes more closely. Thank you for considering input from the community, and thank you for working to preserve not only rural Zionsville, but the notable characteristics of our entire community and way of life.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Leffler. My husband and I live with our family at 1850 South 1200 East Zionsville. You guys all probably recognize me because I've been involved with the ongoing projects in our neighborhood. First of all, I'd like to take the time to thank the Hinkey family and Watch Us Farm for meeting with the neighbors and truly listening to our concerns about the development in our area. As others have mentioned, while overall Maple Lane Club is a good project for our area, there still are some concerns regarding density and increased traffic. I, on the other hand, would like to speak to a positive that I see with this project. Other developers have struggled to understand the need to blend with our existing rural properties. Maple Lane Club has included not only agribusiness, but one that also supports a not-for-profit. As a board member of the Morning Dove Therapeutic Riding, a local not-for-profit that has been in existence in the Zionsville area for over 25 years, I understand the importance of this. Zionsville has many not-for-profits that support not only our area, but also surrounding counties. Recent development has made it virtually impossible for these organizations to be able to afford property and have the resources to operate these not-for-profits. This project, if approved, could set a precedent for future development in our rural area. If other developments were to include a similar percentage, which is roughly 10 or 11%, I believe, of this project, dedicated to agribusiness, and ideally one supporting a not-for-profit, it would serve multiple purposes. It would create a blend between existing rural properties and the new development. It would also preserve our rural heritage while providing employment, housing, and therapeutic opportunities for individuals within our community that are currently traveling elsewhere or not receiving these services. Understandably, there are limited not-for-profits that fit this criteria, but agribusiness opportunities exist that could be incorporated into future developments. It would be aesthetically pleasing to expand the village feel and maintain our rural heritage while traveling north with development, as opposed to continuing the strip mall corridor that's currently Michigan Road or 421. In conclusion, Zionsville is already recognized as a great place to live. Let's continue with our theme of uniquely Zionsville and increase our commitment to be inclusive. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Anna Shapaw. I live at 11779 East 200 South, and I was thinking, I think this is the third time I've seen you guys in a year, which is more than some of the people on my Christmas card list and how often I see them. So if you get a Christmas card from me this year, don't be surprised, boys. I won't stand up here and tell you how much I love our land. I won't tell you how much I love our animals. I want to tell you how much I love this project. I think for the last year, the projects that have come before us on 200 South, it's been really easy to say why they didn't fit into our land. And some of the questions that were asked were, if not this, then what, right? But it's hard to define that as just, a neighbor who's not a developer, who's not an engineer. And I saw this project, and this is one of the things that I was articulating to leadership in our community is there's a way to do both. There's a way to have development and to have rural heritage. And I think if you look at this project overall, it very much respects that. And to Sherry's point, sets a precedent to start blending development into rural areas. I love how the orchard farm is along 200. I think that as you pull down 200, it's going to help extend that feel of being in a rural space that embraces agriculture and nature. I love the quality of the homes that they're proposing. I look forward to volunteering at Watch Us Farm and drinking coffee up there and shopping at the market. It's like my dream of what I could ask to come to 200. That being said, I do have one ask of you. I talked with members of the Henke team, and they were wonderfully responsive and respectful of all of our concerns. And at the end of the day, I do recognize that while Watch Us Farm runs a non-for-profit, you guys don't, right? And so there has to be a certain amount of profitability in this for you, and profitability always comes from density, right? And so while I would love to see this project approved, I'm also thinking 5 and 10 years and 20 years down the road and trying to be an advocate for rural Zionsville and realize that precedent is a real thing. As I've started coming to these meetings and watching them and learning how all of this works, precedent is something that's in all 5 of the, criterias of the state code and kind of something that's considered as you look at the comprehensive plan and the surrounding area and responsible development. And while we would love for this to be that precedent of having, I think it's 11% of the acreage be agritourism, that's not necessarily going to happen on the next development. And what they're going to look at is that 1.9 units per acre was developed in this area. And if you look at the staff report, in 4 of the 5 criterias, it gave a not favorable recommendation. And I think largely, a lot of them kind of came down to density. And so what I tried to do was, how do we provide a helpful solution? I understand we're not going to get 3 to 18 acre lots in the Maple Lane Club like what we have over on 200. But if you look at Brookhaven, which is 1.6 units per acre, if you look at Union Woodland, which is 1.14, and you look at Bradley Ridge, you're at 0.82 units per acre. If you average those, you're at 1.1 units per acre, or 1.18. So we'll call it 1.2. My ask is that we approve this development, but we look at the density and try to reduce it so that we're working to set that precedent for rural Zionsville. Just a few months ago, you guys sent a no recommendation to the town council, and if you listen to the reasons that they voted no for it, a lot of them reference that they vote based on the 5 criteria of the state code. And I feel like we're kind of in a tough spot right now because they just said no to a development based on a very similar staff report. I think if we could look at the density and reduce the density, there could be a way, and this isn't my area of expertise, but maybe to meet more areas of the staff report, set a better precedent for density, and lower that number. So 1.18, which is the average of the 3 developments that were referenced in the staff report, is what I'm asking for tonight, with a favorable recommendation as well. So obviously that goes back to you guys, and that goes back to you guys, but that is what I'm asking, and overall, I absolutely love this project and look forward to being one of your best volunteers.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Megan Chisholm, and I live at 2809 West Highgrove Circle. I have lived in this community since 2013, and I'm asking for you to vote yes. The birth of my daughter back in 2016 brought us into a world we did not know. She was born with a genetic syndrome called 22q. Although she is my fighter and a survivor and considered high functioning, this syndrome has left her with severe intellectual disabilities. Our first thoughts were of fear. What will her future hold? Who will hire her? Where will she work? But every day that girl proves us wrong and just shows us how strong she is. In 2020, our family experienced another terrible accident with my twins, leaving my youngest son severely brain damaged. Again, our world was turned upside down, and we thought, what will my child's future look like? I will not live forever. Where will he go? What will he do? And who will be there to care for him? What we've learned time and time again from this Zionsville community is that you all show up and you all support those who need it. When we learned of this project, my heart just jumped for joy. I live in Brookhaven. This is in our backyard. A community where my children might have a spot to live and to work and to provide back to this incredible place we live. I mean, it's a scene from a Hallmark movie. Well, what do I always call this town? I say I live in a Hallmark movie because that's what this town is. We have the brick streets. We show up for one another. We rally behind our families. We've started in this community by adapting our playgrounds. We've added adaptive swing so that my son can swing now when I take him to the park. But what's next? When my daughter turns 18, what will she do? To know that she could work and live here in this town that's just shown us so much love, how incredible is that? Gone are the days of division. Today is about acceptance and inclusion. I have a family with children that deserve a place to live, to work, and to contribute back to our community. How incredible is it to know that this could be here? The Hankey Development Group, in collaboration with Watches Farm, are committed to creating a functional, inviting community that will be an example to set for others, to show other communities how great Zionsville is, that we were at the forefront of this change. I hope you guys will consider that and just know that if you don't have a child with a disability, it is a blessing, but we need to think about outside of the box and provide for the families that do have that. So again, I ask that you guys consider this because this is a beautiful concept of love and acceptance, and Zionsville will shine for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tough act to follow here. I am going to try to follow in her footsteps. So my name's Bill Williams. I live in Carmel. I don't know if you need my address, but I'm here. It's 12419 Bellinggrass Street, Carmel, Indiana. I'm here because I'm a parent of an autistic son that has been working with Janice and David at the farm for the past 5 years. And he's now 24 years old. And we have watched him, as many people have alluded to here tonight, transition from a kid that didn't have much of a future, struggled with school, struggled to become a young adult. He now has a purpose in his life. He has social skills. He has people that he works with very closely, several of whom are sitting over here right now. And he's really grown into a very productive, happy young adult with a future. And I'm here to support this project for that reason and that reason alone. I know there are a lot of details to work out on things that have been brought up by several folks here, and I appreciate that. But my goal is to say this community has reached out through this organization. We don't have something similar to this where I live in Carmel, and I want to help this grow. I want to help it expand. I think Janice and David are doing wonderful work. And my wife and my family support them and this organization 100%, and I would just ask that you do the same by approving this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Agarwal. I live at 9906 East 200 South in Zionsville. Disclaimers, I'm married to Janice. I'm a treasurer for the Watches Farm organization. We live 700 yards from what's going to be the southeast corner of this project. We're about 1,000 yards from where the southeast corner of the Watches Farm project would be. You know, we're looking at this from the point of view of being neighbors, but also employers in our community. And as neighbors, I'd like to express support of residential development in Zionsville that shows character and not cookie cutter homes. I'll be looking out our bedroom window, out our dining room, out our office, at the houses that are going up around us in Bradley Ridge. And I'm actually glad that they're going to be those houses as opposed to what I'm seeing elsewhere in Zionsville and also in Whitestown. I applaud developers who create neighborhoods with single-family homes as opposed to this concept of campus housing. I think that meets the appeal of what Zionsville has and how we're raising people here. I don't want to maximize the number of people that can live on a property. I like to see those people enjoy the property in which they're living and be part of our community. Hankey's group does that. In Carmel, in Westfield, 3 projects here in Zionsville, they've shown that they've developed places with character. I'm the father of a 25-year-old son named Alex. I'm also a crier. Alex has Prader-Willi syndrome. He can work if he's supported. He needs an environment that provides that area for him, but he can't do it alone. He can't live by himself. And also, selfishly, although Alex is doing very, very well in his current home, not with us, maybe I'd like to see him come back to Zionsville, where we could create a beautiful place with this campus, that we can have him work and learn and live with people he grew up with in high school. I'd like to create a community where Alex and others with intellectual disabilities can do what he would like to do, where members of our local community can walk with their families and learn about farming, which is part of our heritage. I'd like to see other people from neighboring communities come to see a functioning model where they can then take what we're doing and do it in their neighborhoods and their communities elsewhere. This can be done successfully. It will take some bending of the rules, perhaps, and we have to kind of look outside the box of the airport plan to kind of see what we can allow within this neighborhood and elsewhere. But this is something that makes Zionsville worthwhile. We see partnerships with the Henke Group, with IU, Indiana University Health, with Purdue and other local businesses as things that will add value to Zionsville. And I urge the commission to provide a favorable recommendation on the Maple Lane Club project. Happy to answer questions if you'd like.
All right, thank you very much.
Hi there, I'm Stan Agarwal. I live at 9906 East 200 South. I think that I have a bit of a unique perspective in this operation. I am the brother of Alex Agarwal and the son of David and Janice. So I've kind of gotten to see the good and bad side of these disabilities growing up. There's lots of good and lots of bad, and we try to focus on the good, but the bad always shows up, and it mainly shows up because people don't try. Everything kind of falls apart when people stop caring about these kids and these adults, but you really get to kind of see them shine when you give them support and directive, and you give them a chance to be normal. You know, they've never really had the opportunity to be, you know, a regular child growing up. They've always been different. So this is really just an opportunity to you know, help children, siblings, friends of friends, cousins. You know, it's kind of something that gets swept under the rug a lot, and that's a problem. So I think that this expansion would really help to improve on the current project that we are working with. That's all I got.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Haley Hurst. I live at 7175 South 200 East in Lebanon. I just wanted to take a quick moment to speak as someone who not just works with Watchers Farm, but also as someone who's grew up alongside, you know, many adults who are, you know, current with special needs and who would benefit from this new campus. I've seen firsthand how much joy and purpose that these programs bring to people with disabilities when they're children and teenagers. There are summer camps, school-based programs, and after-school programs. But when those young people reach adulthood, when they reach my age, those opportunities become few and far between. That's why this campus is so important. It is not just a set of buildings. It's going to be a place where these adults with disabilities continue to learn, continue to work, and they can continue to grow as, you know, as independent people. It is a space where their talents will be recognized, their skills will be nurtured, and they will get the opportunity to live a life with purpose after high school. I know some of these individuals personally. I've grown up watching them shine when they're in the correct area with tools and support. But I've also seen the gap that exists when those supports disappear after high school. This development bridges that gap. It provides a path forward, one that creates stability and offers training and community for these adults. By moving this project forward, we are saying loudly and clearly that every person in our community deserves the chance to keep growing, to keep learning, and to keep living. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andrew Bowling. I live at 45 Cedar Crest, just next to the high school. I started with Watches Farms end of June, beginning of July. Worked there for a couple months now. And I don't have anything prepared. It's mine short, sweet. You haven't seen me here before because I'm new to the whole project. It's really good for people. And extra space, extra facilities, the Watches Farm component specifically for me will benefit so many people in the community. It's such a positive thing for people that I've personally worked with in a relatively short amount of time. I've seen people actively improve, develop their social skills, develop their personal skills, providing something the community desperately, desperately wants. On that alone, I would say this is something that's extremely important for the community, something that should be focused on, not above all others, but close to the top. And that's really all I've got for you.
All right, thank you.
Hello. Dave Ellison, 35 Cedar Crest, Zionsville, Indiana. So, great time here. Good seeing you guys. So I'm the vocational director at Watches Farm. So I help run the greenhouse, deliver to Noah Grant's, Big Dave's Deli, Our Place Coffee, Tipsy Mermaid, LA Cafe, and we donate to food pantries. So I was a 30-year teacher of special needs, Ben Davis High School and Monroe Gregg schools for the first 2 years. I retired when COVID hit, good timing, but somehow I got picked up at Watches Farm. I just have to say, it's the best place I've ever been in my life, bar none. What we do there is different. We help young people that could normally never have a job, keep a job, have a job, and feel like they're wanted. And I really think that what we're doing is beyond what you guys know unless you come out and see it. You got to come out and see it. It's a blast. Watching these young adults that usually don't talk, I watch them laugh. It's crazy. So with that, you got to pass this. This is going to be the coolest thing that's ever hit Zionsville. Seriously.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, let's do this. Normally I'd give you guys an opportunity to respond, but I think I want to ask some of the plan commissioners some of the input that they have. And then also, I'm going to bring this up because apparently there's been a statute change in the state of Indiana that all PUDs must be adjudicated by the plan commission within 90 days. We're currently at 80 days. So what we need you to do is waive the right to the speedy, process because we have some added input that is, we're thinking most likely is going to push this to a continuance, which would push us over the 90-day requirement. If you did not accept the extension, you'd tie our hands significantly on this. So we're asking you to please extend our ability to deal with this beyond the 90-day time frame. Jeff, if you want to respond, please.
Would there be, so thank you for the comments. Mr. Taylor, do you have anything to add to that?
No, it's just that in 425 Senate Rolled Act, they included a shot clock for 1109, Section 1109 vested rights. For some reason, which is beyond me, PUDs are included in that list of what a permit is. And so the statute just envisions that although the petitioner may waive the early decision imposed by the new shot clock, you're the only people who can. And in this case, we've had one continuance and we're at 80 days. So I think that the plan commissioners may want to talk about some changes to the PUD itself, the text of it, or raise questions. And of course, you as an applicant don't have to agree to that, but I think they're asking if you're open to that, to waiving your right to the 90-day decision.
I'd like to confer with my client on the topic, given just being made aware of the town's position on it. Would it be?
Well, it's not the town's position.
I should say
it's the law.
the town raising the new law here. Would it be most instructive for the petitioner to hear the commentary before that? And that's not because we don't have an appetite for responding, but I think it would give us a more well-rounded picture to the decision.
I think that's what we intended.
Sure.
Is to provide input and comments so that you could react.
And do you need anything beyond a public
No, I do not.
waiver there?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, so
Yeah, good question.
go ahead, down at this end.
So putting our procedural handcuffs aside, I would just say that Hankey Development Group has proven the quality of their product in Zionsville. We all see it. I'm very impressed by it. That coupled with this very inspiring portion of the project, I think is exactly the kind of thing the town needs. I do understand staff has some concerns with some particularities related to the project. I don't think those are anything that can't be overcome with some additional time and conference. But I'm very much in favor of this project. I think it's a wonderful thing that Watches Farm does. It provides hope for members of our community, and I hope we can get there in a timely fashion, and you'll have a yes vote from me.
I was fortunate enough to grow up with a mother that was an assistant director in a program that cared for people with special needs. And by doing that, I got to go on some great field trips as a chaperone, Kings Island and Indiana Beach and whatnot, to try to add opportunities for young adults and older adults to participate and to do things they would normally would not be able to do. So I feel like you'd almost have to be soulless to not be championing for the Watches Farm. And that component by itself is kind of an easy decision, at least for me. I'm an urban planner, and I write zoning ordinances and PUDs for my career. We've got 85-ish plus % of this development that isn't the farm, and that we need to look at that. In my review, and I honestly spent over 6 hours looking at the submittal, so I haven't just skimmed over the documents. I personally have come across at least 20 serious issues with the PUD that I think from the town's perspective we need to get fixed. At least one of those is one that I don't think meets our state statutes. So I want to get those types of things cleared up. I could go through that list, but I think if I do that, I'm going to come across as being against the development, and that's not the message I want to send. If you listen to previous Plan Commission meetings, we had another development in front of us, a PUD. Same thing, is that there were just some significant errors with the instrument of creating a planned unit development. In 30 days, we were able to get that cleaned up, bring it back to the Plan Commission, and we took our vote, had a favorable recommendation at that time. I think that's kind of what's in order here as well, which is we need to get what I consider serious issues cleaned up, and there's honestly quite a few just minor issues. But for instance, and I'll just throw out a couple, is that the language says that the Plan Commission can grant variances, but then in another section it says the BZA grants those variances. It can't be both. the Plan Commission should be able to grant waivers to certain sections of the PUD, but the BZA then can grant variances to other sections of it, and it's just not clear in this document. The way I read it, the sign standards would apply to every property in the development, and I don't think that's their intent, but that's how it reads. So anyone that has a house in this subdivision could have a wall sign, could have a porch sign, could have a projecting sign. Obviously, that's not the intent, but we would just want to get that clarified and cleaned up. So it's my contention, at least, that we need to get through those corrections to the instrument to better understand and to clarify the development. And then I do have a few issues with the concept plan, which is mostly transportation related and subdivision control related. For instance, the cul-de-sac, right now it doesn't meet the town's, it's a really long cul-de-sac on that frontage road, or along 421. That's not something that's clearly permitted in our subdivision control regulations. And usually our fire department doesn't approve really long cul-de-sacs like that. So again, just concerned about some of the design of the streets. None of it, in my opinion, is stuff that we cannot overcome. It's just getting those things cleaned up. So that's kind of where what my position is right now.
And I really appreciate your your work on that, and the time that you have put into that. And as far as the project goes and the staff recommendation, I very much appreciate the box the staff has to work within, the documents you have to work with. I have the unique opportunity to be part of the land use subcommittee, steering committee for the comprehensive plan that's being drafted right now. I've had the opportunity to see what that draft looks like, and for where it is not being complete, it's kind of a bummer. We're just outside of that, time frame. And I think that this not only could potentially fit what may come up, I think it also fits the needs, like folks have said, along 200 and what it does and what it's uniquely bringing to that area. The major concerns that I had, kind of looking at this project, was that 421 corridor, was the homes facing, you've checked that off the list. The homes on 200 that were rear facing, you've turned those around. You've really kind of clicked all of those things off, and it's because of the community involvement and being willing to work with us. I did kind of question the longer cul-de-sac as well, so I'm glad that you brought that up, just kind of from that standpoint. But it's, again, having the unique opportunity to have friends that do have, some children that have special needs and stuff, and them coming to our farm, our little hobby farm we have, and being able to, help raise goats and go out and show goats at the fair at Boone County this year. It's absolutely amazing to be a part of and to watch these, people experience life, and to see life through their eyes is amazing. And for Zionsville to continue being uniquely Zionsville, this is truly unique in the fact that not only does it serve, people in the community that are not being served, it serves the purpose of, kind of the agritourism that always had the question mark that I don't think we'll see moving forward. And so I'm very hopeful that we can kind of work through some of those things. I'm excited to see the little bit of commercial there on the southeast quarter of it. And I hope that we can connect those two. I think there's a ton of commercial potential that fits this niche, that will allow unique things to come to Zionsville in that area. So I'm hopeful that you guys can kind of work through some of the terminology, but yeah, I'm excited to actually see it turn into Watch Us Grow, so.
And I'll add this, I was pretty lukewarm on this to begin with for various reasons, but I think the presentation was very good. Changed my mind, opened my eyes, if you will. So you see, we're just trying to kind of tighten things up, so when we send it forward to the town council, it's ready, it's complete.
And just real quick, as far as the density goes, I think that we have a unique opportunity to look at PUDs and to look at some of these things. And I know, not firsthand, but I know the amount of work and effort it requires in families that are most likely going to want to be in this community. And you really don't have a lot of time to take care of an acre of land. You don't have a lot of time to spend, recreationally doing the things you want to do outside per se. So I think when we start setting precedents, like Anna talked about, we need to understand what the PUD and what is being done around and in that community, as we kind of look forward and figure out what is that benchmark. Obviously, I'm hopeful that, we can bring it down a little bit, but it may need to happen with some of the infrastructure needs there. But I kind of wanted to at least just throw that out there as far as, precedence goes. But
Is this I'm going to guess this is like a 7 to 10 year kind of build out? So
there's a concept of conservation subdivisions, and this is kind of getting into that realm where you cluster in higher density pockets residential to be able to preserve important areas on that site. And the original concept came up, and this site doesn't necessarily fit this, but the concept is that if, hey, there's 20 acres of woodlands, prime, nice environmental feature on this 100-acre tract of land, and somebody could bulldoze all of those trees and net 200 homes following the zoning ordinance, why not let them do those same 200 homes in a more compact fashion and preserve all of that tree, that woodland? The net density for the whole site is the same, but we've in fact saved that environmental feature. And this is similar to that in that we're saving agricultural land that's being put to very good use. I personally, as an urban planner, I'm okay with density when it's designed right. Honestly, I literally have driven people through subdivisions and asked, what's the density of this development? They guess, they're wrong. Go through another development, they guess, they're wrong. Most of the time, they're saying that it's probably like 1 or 2 units per acre when it's 3 or 4 units per acre. Density, when you have quality development, doesn't matter as much as getting the design right. So if we can get the design right, I personally don't care if the number climbs a little bit, as long as we're preserving the ground that needs to be preserved. And I don't personally like to have the backs of homes facing a highway like 421. So if we can create a little bit more green space along that corridor and maybe extend the orchard along that corridor, but we cluster the houses a little more densely off of 421, I would be okay with that because we're creating a character. So driving down 421, you're going to see orchards instead of houses. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? And that can be part of the farm as well. I don't know, but I'm just saying that I'm personally not against the number of dwelling units per acre going up if it solves a problem. And that's just me.
One thing I had on my list, I forgot to say, I didn't want to ignore the traffic component and the safety component around this intersection and around 200. I think that is very important. And what's nice is, not nice, but we can't improve the infrastructure and the roads and that thing without some type of development, whatever that is. And I think that continuing to develop that will bring that kind of, up to the top. The cream will rise, per se. If there's issues, if there's whatever, that will allow that to actually be on somebody's docket rather than something that's kind of off to the side and not thought about. So my hope is that this, development will do that for that area because it is needed.
So with that, are you willing to waive the 90-day requirement?
First, appreciate the feedback. Those were thoughtful, comprehensive comments there. Brad, look forward to hearing more of your comments there. Clarification, given that there's only 4 voting members here. An action outside of unanimous action
Be an automatic continuance.
would be an
correct?
automatic continuance here.
Right, you need all 4 votes for whatever the vote is in order for it to be action.
Would we?
Because that's the majority of the members.
Would that still be deemed within the 90 days? Because then the next plan commission hearing would be outside of that 90 days? Is this sort of an initial action, or somehow does that?
No, it has to be a final decision under that 1109, and again, without the opportunity for, I think, as you probably have guessed, Mr. Johnson would like to send you some suggestions and then, address the other members. If they can't do that, then it's a deemed approval, and I don't think they're going to do that. I think they would take a vote tonight. I don't know how they'd vote, but you can see why there's an issue.
Sure.
We're not big fans of that new statute,
I mean,
as
under
you can
normal
imagine.
circumstances, this would be continued in an effort to clean up the language, so we can, whatever we would do, it would go forward to the town council with the final language for the ordinance.
As Mr. Johnson said, the commission has done this before, provided some feedback, and as he said, just recently, those issues were addressed, and the project did get a favorable recommendation. So it's not a ploy or anything like that. It's just, and again, I know one thing, your draft says that combination of lots don't require replatting or approval from anyone. We tend to not like those on our side of the table. We think that it should follow that same process, a platting process, because that statute is designed to protect the other lot owners who aren't in the combination. So there are some technical things like that we would be giving you, and so.
And the recent changes that he worked out with the petitioner, it was 30 days and then the vote. So it was the next meeting.
Yeah, and that development I supported, conceptually, we just needed to get the instrument cleaned up. And that's, the majority of what is here is that this really is not a complete zoning ordinance that staff can administer. And again, there's language in here that subdivision regulations, that this is a zoning ordinance, not a subdivision control ordinance. We should not have subdivision control regulations woven into this. We can't write a zoning ordinance that does away with subdivision control ordinance. So there's just a few things like that we need to get cleaned up. It doesn't mean you won't get approved or that I don't support the development. It's that the instrument to me is not ready for a favorable recommendation, but I think we can get there.
Yeah, I appreciate all the comments. Would we envision any of the absent members would be participating in the vote, or is that election up to them?
They would participate.
They would, yeah.
So we would have, hopefully next month, we'd have 6 members present. So I don't think this is an issue of a split vote. It's an issue of, putting something forward to the town with it complete and final.
Is it useful while the petitioner's here in this forum, to correspond about any of that issue list, or is it best resolved with you providing comments and us dialoguing?
Yeah, I think we have to
mission?
wordsmith the language, and to do that in this public meeting would be very difficult to do. I apologize. I wish we could do that, but it's just, I don't think that that's really possible.
Just one moment.
Yeah, I understand. I wish I could just hand you a red penned version and you could say yes or no to it.
Thanks for your time. Would you envision closing the public hearing comment, and would you need any more presentation from the petitioner or for next meeting if we move to that? I just wanted to maybe frame the discussion. Mr. Johnson,
Dan, because you correct me if I'm wrong, because the ordinance would be different. Sure. It would be subject to comment.
Yeah, it's been our practice to always have an open dialogue, even if it comes back, even if we've had the public hearing. We always, that's been our practice here. We think that if there are changes made, members of the public should have the right to comment on those changes. And so that's been our practice.
Mr. Franz has been very good about asking people to not repeat the same presentation again. So we really would be just focusing, I think, correct me if I'm wrong.
On the changes.
Yeah.
On the changes.
And I think, but the public comment today really, the negatives were really density and traffic, and we've talked about those, so.
Yeah,
and I think our expectation on your behalf, the petitioner, would be to come in and say, here are the changes that we made since we were here last time, and we respectfully make our request again. And you would need to go through everything again. And then again, we would see what response there is to that. But there will be, and they might be technical in nature, procedural, as Mr. Johnson mentioned. But if there's anything that's changed, then obviously we think that the public should have right to comment on that.
Yeah, thanks for all this back and forth dialogue. It seems a bit awkward with a full room here, but thank you for that. Ultimately, I think we have some comments about density that certainly we can address in this dialogue. I think the vision that has been Bradley Ridge is the prior approved phases of Bradley Ridge as well as Maple Lane Club, and when you combine that vision, it really interacts with the landscape that is what the land has offered. As this Plan Commission well remembers, the landscape on the west side of US 421 really facilitated a variety of adjustments, we'll call them here. And so on the east side of 421, we're really letting the landscape dictate some of those development decisions and how the single family element and the Watches Farm element interact with each other. And so I think the density numbers, when you look at both of those projects combined, really lower from that 1.9 number down to, a much lower number, about 1.2. And so I think it's framing that full discussion. It was maybe this dialogue maybe got in the way of rebuttal, but formal rebuttal, if you will. Hopefully it's viewed as more as a clarification of the questions here. So hopefully we can highlight some of those things within the next few weeks, and then come back at your next Plan Commission members meeting. So the one item I guess we'll say for the record is that it would be a challenge for the number of units, the maximum number of units to decrease based off of a relationship between the single family investment, the commercial neighborhood market investment in the Watches Farm market district. I just don't want to move to the next stage and have made an illusion otherwise there.
I can say that none of my comments address density. I don't have an issue with density. So, and I would be willing to meet with your team, within the next 7 days if you guys can, if we can come up with a meeting time and date to make that happen. I don't think there's any gotchas in the comments that I have. It's more of just truly trying to create, we are writing a zoning ordinance, and we would never adopt a new zoning ordinance for the whole town of Zionsville with some of these pieces missing or being out of consistency with the statute. So it's really just trying to get that cleaned up. I love the mission. And again, I'm not poking at density at all.
Real-time feedback is that the Hinkie team will meet anytime as your schedule allows there. So thank you for the dialogue. On behalf of the petitioner, I guess we'll waive the 90-day new law here and look forward to the tweaks before coming before you at the next Plan Commission hearing. Certainly don't want my voice to be the last one on record here, so we'll hand it to Betsy here.
No, I just simply wanted to thank everybody in the audience for coming tonight, and I just ask that the commission be sure to relay a copy of these minutes of their dialogue. I know it's very difficult for people to come on a Monday evening, and there were a lot of important voices that were heard tonight that may not be able to be here a month from now for the others who were not present. And so if you could just make that simple request to them that they've read those in advance of that meeting, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you all very much.
Well, I mean, I think they'll most likely watch it. It's on, we've got the YouTube channel where they have the hearing, Plan Commission meeting. So, all right, so with that, does somebody want to make a motion to continue this to the October, what's the date? Do we know?
That'd be 21st or
Roger.
so?
It's the first, it's the third Monday.
Yeah, 21st, I think. that is.
20th? October 20th?
20th.
Okay, October 20th.
I would make the motion to continue this matter to the October 20th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Can we do voice on this one? Yes. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed by nay. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Yeah, the vote was unanimous, so. All right. Next on the docket, we'll put these together, 2025 55PP and 2025 62DP, Old Town Land Development LLC, Wild Air Section 2 Primary Plat Development Plan, both sides of Marysville Road between Oak Street and County Road 550 South. Zionsville, primary plat approval to subdivide 81.5 acres into 159 residential lots, including single-family lots and townhome lots, multiple common areas and Block C for future development, all being in the Wild Air subdivision, and a development plan for these same 159 lots with the same language. So Roger, are you handling this one?
Yes, sir.
Oh, and for the record, Mr. Hurst has returned. So we are back to 5 members of the Plan Commission present.
Is it no walk-up music?
Did you get a nice nap in?
I had a productive 90 minutes, thank you.
You were probably watching some of the Monday Night Football.
I was not.
All right, Roger.
Thank you. As introduced, we have 2 companion petitions to hear at the same time. Docket number 2025 55PP and 2025-62-DP. These are primary plat and development plan for Wild Air Section 2. This is to subdivide 81.5 acres into 159 residential lots, which would include single-family lots, townhome lots, multiple common areas, and a Block C for future development. Again, all of this is within the Wild Air PUD. On the screen in front of you is a location map showing Section 2, which is actually broken into 2 subsections. A Section 2A, which is here on the west side of Marysville Road, and subsection 2B and 2C, which is on the east side of Marysville Road. To give you further orientation, Wild Air Section 1A is located in this area. Wild Air Section 1B, which has been approved also, is in this area. And then the Wild Air multifamily section, kind of the heart, right in the middle of the overall development, was in this area, which included the clubhouse and the Archer Farms Park, along with some rental opportunities. The entire area is shown here on the zoning map, which is maybe easier to identify that all of the green area that you see is part of the Wild Air PUD. And again, I've outlined where sections 2A, 2B, and 2C are located, and that's what is under consideration this evening. As mentioned, Wild Air development is being developed in phases. And as an overall map, they provided this drawing, which shows how
The different sections were presented in the 70-plus sheets of drawings, broken up, and I'm not going to take you through all 70 sheets, but I did pull out some sections as representative depictions of both the primary plat and the development plan drawings. And those three areas I've outlined in red, so we'll focus on this portion of the development here and also here, and I've chose those three different areas for specific reasons, which I'll elaborate on. This is Section 2A, which again is west of Marysville Road and consists of approximately 31.22 acres. This area will include 50 lots for single-family residence and common areas. Will include home sites in the custom estates use block and the traditional neighborhood development use block, as was defined and depicted within the PUD. This is only a portion of Section 2A, but again, I wanted to give a representation of the type of information that was provided on the primary plat drawing. And then this next sheet is a drawing of that very same area, but this is one of the development plan drawings. So again, just to give you an idea, the development plan drawing is going to include much more detailed information such as topo information. It is showing possible locations of residences and possible curb cuts. Even within the development plan, we're going to have other drawings that show street markings, street lighting, streetscape, landscaping, things like that. But again, I'm not going to show each and every one to you. Moving on to one of the other sections within Section 2, again, this is the primary plat of that area. This is on the east side of Marysville Road. Marysville Road is over here. And this is being shown to you for two different reasons. First of all, it's not only the traditional neighborhood layout of lots, but then also along this side, which would be the east side of Liz Drive, this is where some of the townhomes would be located. So just want to give you an idea of how the townhomes would be interacting with single family. Additionally, this portion of the primary plat shows Archer Park Road, which would be coming off of Marysville Road and coming back into the development. And again, contrasting this primary plat with the development plan drawing for the same area. One couple of things I want to point out on this is coming back to Archer Park Road. It will be a right-in, right-out on Marysville Road. So only northbound traffic would be able to turn in. And as traffic comes out of here, they would only be able to turn north on Marysville Road. And that would take them up to a roundabout that is under construction. So anyone leaving this area that would need to head south on Marysville Road, they would simply have to go north up to this roundabout and then head south. Some other things just to put this area into context for you. I mentioned the multifamily section that's been previously approved. That is up in this area. The clubhouse for the overall development is located here. This area is Archer Park, which has also already been approved, along with three of the rental buildings, not all of the units, but just three of the buildings that are located here. So finally, moving on to the final section I wanted to highlight. Again, this is a primary plat drawing for this southern section of Section 2. Again, showing more townhomes located here, along with a couple of single-family traditional neighborhood residential lots here. But this is also showing the intersection of Liz Drive where it comes down and meets Oak Street. And similarly to Archer Park Road, this also will be a right-in, right-out, but with a boulevard design. So again, cars that are coming westbound on Oak Street will be able to turn in and enter the development at this point. And then any cars that are coming south on Liz Drive, as they exit here, they will only be permitted to go westbound on Oak Street. And should they need to be going eastbound, they would turn westbound here, come to the roundabout at this intersection, and then head east. So, I strayed from my notes, so let me find where I am. Excuse me. Staff supports a conditional approval of both of the petitions, the primary plat and the development plan, to establish the 159 residential lots, including the single-family lots. Subject to the resolution of items noted in the attached comment letters, Exhibit 6 and 6A of the staff report. I need to make you aware, just this afternoon, I had to amend the staff report to include Exhibit 6A. It is a comment letter from the DPW department, which was not received until after the original staff report was published. And I was able to work it into the staff report today. So it really doesn't change anything other than if you see a motion that says just Exhibit 6, please make it Exhibit 6 and 6A. That's the only adjustment that I have, and that comment letter was forwarded to the petitioner a couple days ago. But again, we received it after publication of the staff report, so just want to make sure that you were working with the latest version of everything. Again, staff supports conditional approval of both petitions. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Roger. Does the petitioner have anything to add, comment?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Roger, and thank you, Commission, for the opportunity to speak tonight. For the record, Jeremy Lawler with Old Town Companies, office at 525 North End Drive in Carmel, Indiana. I won't belabor and repeat anything that Roger said. I just want to acknowledge that we do have the comment letters. We're diligently working with the different agencies to address all those comments. We're really excited about the success of Wild Air so far. I don't know if you've been out by there as of late, but the Section 1A, where the first section of custom homes is just had permission to go vertical a few weeks ago, and there's about 10 new homes under construction out there right now. The multifamily is going really well. We're nearly sold out of Section 1A, the custom stuff, which is the only thing open for sale at this point in time. We're still working on 1B and just really gearing up to try to deliver this next section next year based on the success, and really prepare for the demand that we're seeing out there because of the excitement of the neighborhood. And happy to try to answer any questions that you have, and thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is there anybody who'd like to comment on this matter? Since there's nobody, I'll close the public hearing. Open up to members of the Plan Commission.
The only question I had for, I guess probably staff, the ride-in, ride-out, is that something that is being, like, that they have to do? Is it just a design choice, or is it a DPW choice, or not DPW, sorry?
When the PUD went through the approval process, included within that, as you know, would have been a concept plan. And at that time, everything that was proposed for these two intersections that I specifically mentioned were going to be right in, right out. So what is being proposed is consistent with the concept plan that was approved as part of the PUD. Again, the one here on that exits onto Marysville Road is just south of a roundabout that's being developed, just as the one that's down on the south end of the development that I mentioned is just east of another roundabout.
I feel like they're gaining in popularity there. From an emergency response standpoint, it is very hard to access these ride-in, ride-outs, and it really forces
direction you're coming from.
Yeah, and especially, the mutual aid that is going to, be in this area, and the direction in which, stations are coming in. It's proving to be a little difficult. Not that it's going to change this, but just as a comment.
They're four-wheel drive, aren't they?
Yeah.
Off-road vehicles?
It's all fun and games until you beat it on the median.
Anything else from any of the members? If not, would someone like to make a couple of motions on these?
Sure, I'll take a crack since I didn't get to play for the past 90 minutes. I move that docket number 2025-55-PP, a petition for primary plat approval to establish 159 residential lots, multiple common areas, and Block C for future development on 81.5 acres, including right-of-way dedications, B-zone planning unit development, wild air PUD, District B, conditionally approved, subject to the resolution of comments noted in the attached comment letter, Exhibits 6 and 6A, in the staff report prior to the recording of the secondary plat.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mike, would you please take roll?
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
Brad Johnson. Aye. David Franz. Aye. Kendrick Davis.
Aye.
Nick Plopper.
Aye.
5.
That motion is approved 5-0.
And I'll go ahead with the next one. I move that docket number 2025-62DP, a petition for approval of a development plan for 159 residential lots, including single-family lots and townhome lots, multiple common areas, and Block C for future development, all being in the Wild Air PUD District B, conditionally approved subject to the conditional approval of the primary plat identified as docket 2025-55-PP, resolution of items noted within the comment letters, Exhibits 6A and 6B, and based on the findings and as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further comment? Mike, would you please take roll?
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
Brad Johnson.
Aye.
David Franz.
Aye.
Kendrick Davis.
Aye.
Nick Plopper.
Aye.
That motion also carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate your time.
Next on the docket, 2025-60 PP and 2025-61 DP, Davis Home, Saddle Creek Farms, primary plat and development plan, 7860 South 850 East, Zionsville, primary plat to subdivide 58.83 acres into 14 residential single-family lots in the rural equestrian RE district, and a development plan for the same property.
This one's
Jody?
me.
Okay.
Yep. So thank you. With your permission, I will discuss these both together, the primary plat and the development plan, but of course you will have to vote on them separately. So what we have is a petition for primary plat approval for a 14-lot subdivision in the RE, the rural residential equestrian zoning district. So here is the overall site, 96th Street, 850 or Cooper Road. And then the zoning is RE rural. The primary plat does show the 14 lots. I will note that this project received a BZA special exception to allow for a major subdivision in the RE zoning district, and they were also granted a use variance to allow for monument signage, which is not allowed in the RE district because that only contemplates residential projects. So both of those variances were granted by the BZA. Each lot is going to be served by water and septic, and the lots are sized appropriately for septic systems. That is allowed per the ordinance. Subdivisions of 15 lots or more would be required to use municipal water and sewer service. Part of the primary plat does include, the lots 1 through 10 gain access from 850 or Cooper Road through an internal private drive. Lot 14 has its own driveway from 850, and then lots 11, 12, and 13 are served by a private drive off of 96th Street. There is a waiver request associated with this primary plat to not put in the perimeter sidewalks. This is a common request to you guys, mostly from minor subdivisions, so 3 lots or less. It's not been common practice to grant a waiver of the perimeter path for major subdivisions. Then staff is not recommending that you do grant the waiver. You have often, as a commission, granted deferrals of installation of the plat, so that, of course, is an option for you that's opened. There is included in the staff report some suggested language that other plats have included, noting who would be responsible for installing the perimeter pathway and when that would happen, and we would just recommend that language of that sort to be included for the secondary plat before it gets recorded. Like Roger, I didn't give you every single sheet of the development plan, but there's enough information that you can see that the lots are 3-acre minimums, and the development plan shows where the potential home sites would be and ample space for septic systems. And so that's the northern part. The middle part, showing the retention ponds and the internal road network, and, oops, that's another, and then the southern part, another retention pond. This, again, is the single lot that has its own drive access off of 850, and then the 3 lots that have the internal access off of 96th Street. Staff is suggesting that the primary plat be approved without the perimeter path waiver, of course, with the deferral. There are some comment letters, still technical issues from DPW and the county highway, who has control over the perimeter streets. So once those are worked out, which is also common to have conditional approvals, and with those conditions being worked out before the secondary plat is recorded. And so that's on both the primary plat and the development plan. You do need to do the primary plat, the waiver first, the primary plat, and then the development plan. If you are going to grant the waiver or deferral, then you can go ahead and move to approve the development plan. If you don't grant either of those, then you should continue the development plan so they can come into compliance. With that, I'm happy to turn it over to the petitioner.
All right, thank you. Petitioner.
Hopefully not too sick of me yet. Kyle Russateritz for the petitioner, Denton's 10 West Market Street, Indianapolis, Indiana 46204. Thank you for your time this evening, Plan Commission members. Jody, thank you for your presentation this evening. Members of the development team are here as questions arise with respect to the development in general, as well as the project's engineer, Brian Robinson. We would respectfully ask for approval of the primary plat and development plan here, open to answer any questions that you may have this evening with respect to either item or in general overall. I'm here most importantly to speak of the waiver of the perimeter sidewalk requirement of subdivision control ordinance. Yeah, thank you. I was just actually going to ask for the site plan. So from a practical perspective here, the sidewalks, the perimeter sidewalks that would serve the site are really bifurcated by adjacent development. And so, as Jody mentioned, there's a collection of homes in the southwest corridor of the development, lots 11, 12, and 13. That being noting just a cluster of 3 homes, very akin to a minor subdivision. There's a property just to the east of lot 13, a separate, not included in the development, and then and just north of there, lot 14. That lot is a single lot, gaining access off of the public road. And then, as Jody's just indicating here, just to the north end, those are actually two lots, I believe a minor subdivision there with a single family home there. And then the Saddle Creek Farms continues to the north, which would be lots 1, 2, and 3 along the public right of way. Of course, there's a common area retention pond north of there, and then a significant utility-based development there to the north. And of course, as you travel north, you'll get to the 465 overchange there. And so as we think about from a practical perspective, and as Jody mentioned, there's lots of communication between the developer and the county highway department with respect to this development. It was unique, a unique finding of ours in general that, of course, this is rural Zionsville jurisdiction, but it is urban. It is deemed urban Boone County here, and so. Reconciling those and with respect to just the development at large with the private streets in particular, we've had to communicate with the highway development about other development things, curbs, sidewalks, and the like, and so we ask for the waiver this evening because, as I've noted, the practical difficulties of the shape of the parcels, as well as the development of these sort of bifurcated, separated lots, and that the God bless you, the single-family home in the corner, and then the minor subdivision between lots 14 and lot 1 there were not subject to those same exterior path building requirements here. As I noted, a utility parcel in the northeast corner. Really, I think that the connectivity that would be the reason why the ordinance promotes the connectivity of these lots. We don't envision the development interior to this site facilitating that sort of usage to connect the northernmost lot, lot 3, to the southwesternmost lot 11 here, and so really balancing the rural equestrian elements of this project, large lots. Recall that each of these lots are over 3 acres. Even just in front of the BZA a week or so ago, speaking with respect to a sign variance and lighting, making sure that there isn't any light pollution extending into the sky, making sure that those are downward lightings. Every step of this process, from BZA approval, from a special exception to a sign variance, has really created an environment of this rural landscape, these large lots, and this concept of urban connectivity that promotes this exterior pathway is really contrary to what we would expect of lots of this size, particularly those lots in the southwest corner, and then the lot 14 there. And so for all those reasons, and including those reasons included in our initial application, we would respectfully request a support of the waiver and approval of the waiver, but look forward to any dialogue that the Plan Commission has on this specific waiver or the 2 petitions overall. Thank you.
Is there anybody in the public who'd like to comment on this matter? Come on.
Thank you, John Burkhart from 8505 West 96th Street. So I'll be just on the south edge of this and a little bit west in Marion County. So my only question is, I understand the difficulty of running sidewalks in and out through all the, are there sidewalks included along the 2 public streets? Serves the 3 south lots?
You're asking us, we'll ask him.
Yeah.
So you want to know where the sidewalks are going to be?
Are there going to be sidewalks actually along the public streets or the private streets?
Interior to the development?
Uh-huh.
Jody, do you know that?
No, there are no internal sidewalks. The streets are all private, and that's not a requirement to have sidewalks.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else like to comment?
David Gangstead. I live at 8250 West 96th Street in Zionsville, and I'm that corner lot that this gentleman was talking about. And I'd just like to support his advice or his recommendation for a waiver because considering where we live and the environment that we live in, I'd like to just keep it the way it is and have that country environment. And I think to put in sidewalks would take away from that. And so all this disconnectivity that he mentioned, I certainly agree with him. So I'm in full agreement, and I'm with the developer on this. Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? All right, I'll close public comment at this time. Open up to members of the Planning Commission.
Go ahead. In regards to the waiver, I guess I feel like our job is to think many years, decades into the future. I don't think we can predict what the future needs for pedestrian connectivity is going to be. The waiver, denying the waiver doesn't mean that sidewalks are ever going to come to that area. It just means that we're reserving the right to ask the property owners to pay for that sidewalk or side path to go in at some date if it ever becomes necessary. Western Clay Township, the western parts of Carmel, is part of that. Working with them years and years ago, they fought tooth and nail to not have any side paths on any of the east-west, north-south roads. But about 5 years later, they were the #1 group of people that were fighting with the town to get them to build those side paths. I mean, things do change over time. You as a property owner there today may not want it, but people 3 decades from now may want that, and it may become critical infrastructure. And honestly, it's the #1 public infrastructure that I hear from cities and towns across the state. They want more connectivity for pedestrians, bicycles, walking, strolling, whatever it may be. And again, it may be decades before anything ever happens in that area because it is so disconnected, but I think we need, as the town, to reserve the right to request that at some point in the future.
I would tend to agree with you.
Yeah, and I think this is why we do kind of normally, precedents as far as this, how many people would have thought a major subdivision would go in right here at 96 and Cooper, 5 years ago. So I think it's safe, and then I know there's always ongoing discussions. It's a bad word here, but, in Zionsville, but an interchange is coming somewhere along there at some point in time. I'm not saying it's going to be, we have no idea, but if it does, for whatever reason, happen to be right here off of Cooper, not that I'm for that or anything like that, just, again, like you said, we have no idea. And so reserving the right for it to happen in the future, I think is just a very responsible thing to do. And I agree with what was written in the letter as far as, the asphalt being on the ground and, like you said, trying to keep that rural heritage there. It will do that. It will just allow for future generations, should there be a lot of growth out there, to have the opportunity to navigate that area safely.
And this is, it's consistent with what we've done for most situations where this arises. Any further discussion?
I have a couple other points. 2 of the retention ponds in the drawing are kind of blob-shaped, which is good. They look more like natural ponds. The one that's on the southern part of the development's very square. I guess I have 2 questions. One, is there exposed riprap going to be associated with either of these ponds, or are they going to have natural edges?
Robinson, Upworth and Associates. Great question. No, the only riprap would be on the outlet in the inlets of the pond to protect erosion as stormwater comes in. The banks themselves will be natural turf.
Thank you. And going to the presentation, this is an equestrian area, rural area. I think the more we get away from things that look overly engineered, the better. So if we can have that pond be a little more
blob-shaped, and I think that's a technical word, right?
That is a technical word, actually.
Instead of
Yes.
square,
Blob,
I think
blob,
it just
we-
would make that area look a little better, and it serves the same purpose. If that lot would accommodate that, that would be a request from me.
We can definitely try to shape that a little bit different. There is a watershed that comes in off of the west, and we need as much pond detention to meet the stormwater ordinance as we possibly can, but we can try to shape that just a little bit better.
Looks like the bottom half bumps out. Maybe you can round that off.
Just round it
I mean,
off.
it
Go
truly
towards-
does makes a difference. It really does. When
Absolutely.
you see the aesthetic of what the end result is, seeing something that looks very engineered versus something that's more natural, I think we deserve, I mean, the town should see that through for the aesthetic benefits of it. The last question I have is, you've got lots that technically front on an internal street and then also front on the north-south. Is it Cooper? Is that right?
Cooper, yes.
Are those houses going to be facing the internal street?
Internal street, yes,
Okay.
except for, I think that one that's by itself, it'll be facing Cooper.
Okay.
14. It is 14, yes. Lot 14 that'll be fronting Cooper.
Okay. I just, if one decides to face Cooper and the other one decides to face the other way, I mean, some people may like their house facing Cooper, and I just think that there should be some consistency there. And the property owners that build there should.
Unless Brandon can tell me otherwise, I think you'll be all on facing the private street,
Okay.
yes.
I've got a question. I recall projects in the past where we have denied the waiver requests, but then also we've waived the bond. If I recall correctly, and I'm trying to remember exactly how we were able to, how we resolved the securing of the performance of requiring the sidewalk in the future by waiving the bond. Do we do that some other way?
Is that larger was that what was?
Yeah, when you have chosen to defer for minor subdivisions, you've also chosen to waive that performance bond. For a major subdivision, again, it's not customary to waive, but if you would choose to defer the primary path installation, staff would also recommend that you still require the bond, the performance bond of the developer to put the sidewalks in, which a bond is generally required.
Do we not have a project that in the last several months, I feel like we did?
We've waived the bond too.
Yeah. And then in doing so, do we just lose the ability to enforce putting the path in? The
Alternatively, what the Plan Commission's done is require a notation on the plat.
Yeah.
That requires and obligates the lot owners to install the sidewalks when there is contiguous construction of sidewalks to the site. Problem with that is actually recently we encountered a big problem with that language. That had to do with a major subdivision where the Plan Commission many years ago did just that. There was only a notation. Actually, there was a form of a commitment that was made to install the sidewalk when when there was contiguity established with adjoining sidewalks. And the cost of installing that sidewalk is extremely burdensome on those lot owners, and they're actually challenging now the town in terms of providing the sidewalks.
Refusing would be a better word. Refusing.
Yeah.
It's very expensive.
So yeah, but I mean, the developer should have done it, so, but I mean, in the past, I think what Ms. Dickey said is, for a minor subdivision, 2-3 lots, it's an entirely different thing, but when you get to more lineal feet that would need to be built, it has been the recommendation of staff to avoid the waiver of the bond, because yes, we then really lose the leverage for that.
What's the threshold between minor and major developments?
Number of lots, a minor subdivision is 3 lots or fewer.
3?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of paths to nowhere, and requiring them just seems wasteful, but we don't know what the future holds, as Brad said, so.
Even if they list a commitment on the, plat, I mean, doesn't that, are they contesting that with the one that you've got?
It would bind the landowners, but the developer is generally out of the picture at that time. And so the landowners may or may not have read the commitment when they bought their lot, and it's a whole different financial thing for them.
In my experience. May not, have not, will not, shall not. Who manages tracking the bond? Is that something that staff does?
Yeah.
So every year you
Roger
gotta
will.
call them up and make sure it gets renewed?
Yeah.
It can't be renewed, it can't be canceled without the consent of the,
Right, okay, yeah.
of the town.
If I may make a comment from the petitioner's perspective, in an effort to now ask for a waiver of the bond requirement, the petitioner can make a condition or commitment that it place of record in the declaration that will be established for the establishment of the subdivision, in the same way as there were commitments with respect to the special exception approval by the BZA, that those CCRs include notice of this future requirement, as well as that the budgeting exercise that the subdivision undergoes annually would include funds to contribute to a future installation of these roads, this pathway, if and when the development calls for it. So maybe those people in the room, like myself, looks at my plat. Most maybe single-family owners probably don't look too closely at their plat other than their specific lot there. And so we'd want to add that additional precaution into the declaration there, so that I think in that case, the confidence there is that the executive board of the HOA would have to enforce and be familiar with the CCRs there, and would be an additional group, right, to the executive directors of the HOA in addition to the developer there. So we can offer that in return.
Just out of curiosity, what would the financial, so for the bonding to happen, what would the financial responsibility of the developer be in that?
The developer typically pays for the pathway installation during the construction of the subdivision. The town can accept a bond, a performance bond for that, or an irrevocable letter of credit. So sometimes the developer will say, here's the estimate, here's your check, and then you guys cash that check or credit when we put the sidewalk in.
Probably costs 2 to 3% of the face value. I mean, if it's $100,000, they're paying $2,000-3,000 a year.
But not a lawyer, but I think that having the HOA set up a fund for a perimeter pathway installation and having that language in the CCRs is certainly adequate protection for the town, so that the residents of this subdivision know their.
I would disagree.
I was gonna say-
And as gracious as that offer is, I
Okay.
mean, the situations that we deal with, what if the HOA goes defunct? What if they dissolve? What if they refuse to fund it? Now they're in breach of their own covenants. Who enforces that? If
That's
they're all
why
in
you're the
agreement. There are a million things that can go wrong, and it isn't as if it's hypothetical. Mr. Dale and I are dealing with these matters now, and that is why, again, the preferred solution does not shift it to the HOA, which may or may not exist 25 years in the future, may or may not follow the covenant, may or may not fund. If you've ever lived in a HOA, you may know what I mean. They may just vote not to fund whatever they're supposed to fund. The idea, one of the ideas is that if you grant a deferral, you should try to protect the town, because the town may come along and say, well, we sure wish we could have a sidewalk there, but we didn't budget that money ever. And in a year like 26, where the town is anticipating a pretty significant drop in revenue, usable revenue, you may just say, well, we'll just never have a sidewalk there then. It is a problem administratively. Your policies do exist for a reason, but if you do it, you have to understand that shifting that burden to the HOA is an imperfect solution for the reasons I mentioned. I really, and we, not just you, but several of my clients have experienced that. And so if you really want to make sure it happens someday, I'd recommend you kind of follow your policy. And if you don't care about that, then we'll grant a waiver, if that's what you think.
On this lot, I mean, these lots, I guess I'm looking at this, and the existing lots that are not part of this subdivision, can the town force them to have a sidewalk? No.
I will say that this property that's outlined in gray here was subject of a minor primary plat, the Maples minor primary plat, which was, this is one lot, and then this white area here was 2 lots. So it was a 3-lot minor subdivision. The language that was included in the staff report for the waiver is language from that Maples minor plat.
So that has the obligation to do the sidewalk.
When a perimeter path comes next door, then the subdivision, these homeowners are obligated
And
to.
then the corner lot on the southeast side,
That was not part
That's
of the
not
plat,
part
that
of
was
it.
previously split off from the parent parcel.
So there'd be a pathway
There would be
from lot 14 up to lot number 3, and I guess the pond number 3, and then you run into the utility and it stops.
Yes, yeah.
It's conceivable the town would consider installing the remaining portion of the sidewalk to fill up any gaps that are not covered by this.
I will say that the staff report notes a portion of the town's pathway plan showing pathways along both Cooper Road and 96th Street. So it's in the town's plan that pathways here are an important community amenity.
I think from the petitioner's perspective, again, we're trying to balance that rural equestrian experience. There was a question, I think, by one of the Plan Commission members about the demarcation between minor and major subdivision there. You know, it's due to the unique landscape here of this property that we've had to shift lots, right? Of course, this isn't a unique this is a very unique development plan that all 14 lots aren't served by the same initial entrance point, don't have a traditional pathway connecting all of those exterior lots along the perimeter. And so for lot 12, 11, 12, and 13, I think from that bonding perspective here, we would again urge the Plan Commission to consider a waiver of that bond, only because I think if what I'm hearing Jody saying, we may not have a bonding requirement if we were looking at just a subdivision where that existed lots 11, 12, and 13, and just lot 14, and just lots 1, 2, and 3. But because we've coupled them all together, we have to, the developer is asked to fulfill that bonding obligation.
And just to be clear, there is always a bonding requirement. It's just been for minor plats. In the most recent past, Commission has opted to waive that bonding requirement.
I would say that riding a horse on a side path is a lot safer than riding it on the road. I mean, they do get used for equestrian use as well. And I do think that, again, they serve a purpose for safety, connectivity, even in the rural areas. I still would be adamantly for promoting side paths connectivity when it comes in the future.
So as soon as this subdivision is approved, all this is approved, so is there an estimate on the sidewalk immediately, or the pathway immediately, and then they post it immediately, or is it as it, so?
Yeah, that's part of the construction plan documentation, so they don't get released to build without that.
I'm willing to defer it, but if we have situations where we're having people contesting what they committed to previously, I think that kind of changes how we approach the financial backing of it.
Sounds like we're going to be paying legal fees to try to enforce what we're doing if we don't.
Yeah. I think everybody has good intentions until all of a sudden it's like, well, here's your bill. So.
What's the long-term solution for that? Right, that's what's.
This is the only thing is like, if the problem is if this goes on for 30 years, they have to maintain the bond for 30 years.
Which is.
Right. It's, you know.
Onerous, it's difficult, yeah.
Yeah, that's rough. That makes it a lot.
Surety could go defunct just like the HOA.
A little less likely.
I've had it happen, so just.
A little less likely.
Dan, what about deed restrictions or other legal tools besides covenants?
Besides what?
A covenant. Like a straight-up deed, addition to the deeds on the properties that says that they have to contribute to that cost or pay for the pass.
Well, deed makes it more prominent, but it doesn't help us on the enforceability side. The additional notices that the petitioner mentions is a way to bring it to their attention so that it's not buried in the title commitment, which simply says you might want to look at your covenants, is what it usually says. So that's better, but again, none of that helps us on that. In my experience, bond companies failing is typically not a problem, but even if a bond company does fail, the obligation to post the bond remains and it would have to be replaced. That the language in your ordinance covers that part, but.
I know of situations where all of the commitments from the developer went into the covenants, but the covenants also read that anything in the covenants with a 70% vote of the members can remove anything they want. And they just voted out every development covenant that was made by, during the approval process. So yeah, it's just not viable to put it in the covenants.
Is there, and just again, trying to think outside the box, is there any type of language for like escrowing certain money to be earmarked for this by the developer?
Well, the thing is, you escrow it, you gotta put it all up front, where a bond, paying a percent. I mean, you still have to fund it eventually, but you don't have to put the money up front to cover it.
But it's part of the
An
development.
irrevocable letter of credit, which is an alternative to a surety bond, is really escrowing the money. It's held by a bank, and no one can get it except the town. That's the nature of an irrevocable line of credit, which is sometimes used, sometimes required. The surety bond is thought to be less expensive because you pay a little bit each year in that premium, and then any time that you eventually construct the project, you don't have to pay those premiums anymore. But that's why some communities allow an irrevocable letter of credit. That's really what it operates just like an escrow fund. Funds have to be deposited and then are held by that third party, and then a letter can be used to call that money forward. A bond is very similar. It's just more in the nature of insurance, an insurance policy rather than cash. An irrevocable letter is cash, really.
And the bond, I mean, obviously if the bond has to perform, they're gonna go back after the subdivision anyway, so, for the math.
It's the temporal element of both the bond and the letter of credit from a developer's perspective, right? As soon as the developer sells and builds on each of these 14 lots, the that may, the transition of power, if you will transition from the developer to the landowner. And in the same way as there's a timing component on the installation of the roadways, the developer wants to move on to other productive projects in the community, and transition that responsibility to the owners. And so we're trying to create a mechanism where that can shift.
Well, I mean, the one thing you could do is, I mean, I don't know how much these things cost, divided by 14 and get them to pay for it up front and stick it in escrow, and then it's always there. I mean, that's an option. You know, if it's a couple $100,000 divided by 14, everybody ponies up 15 grand and it's done. But, you know, there's.
Doesn't a letter of credit accomplish exactly what you described?
But a letter of credit, it depends. I mean, the letter of credit it's a commitment to pay essentially the same thing, but if it's, an escrow is gonna be cheaper than a letter of credit. An escrow, you're just paying somebody to manage and hold the escrow. A letter of credit,
Okay,
you
it's
gotta pay a
cheaper,
fee.
but,
Yeah.
but in both cases, cash is in hand somewhere.
That's the part that, I mean, just me as an individual, you know, if you're developing this land and you're creating this subdivision, obviously, you know, for profit, and then you're just gonna pass it on to the, you know, this would really be the responsibility financially of a developer. So how do you?
Well, I mean, the
bridge that
developer
gap?
passes all those costs on to the
Right,
ultimately
yes,
the home
yeah.
to buy.
The initial buyers, yeah.
Yeah. So.
There's also the selling of these lots, right? So the reason why the waiver's being asked from the developer's perspective is that the community members, the future owners of these lots, we feel like share in the thoughts of our neighbor, where they don't actually want the pathway. So it's a in that respect, it's a bit cyclical there.
I mean, we understand. I mean, it's just one of these things that.
If I may read the room a bit here, if the developer can have optionality between a bond and a letter of credit so that they can replace each other over time, as well as an optionality to replace either or when the developer exits the neighborhood. And again, it either be a bond obligation or a letter of credit obligation. Again, it's just some optionality so that if the temporal element here is we're not building the perimeter pathway for another 15, 20 years, we can advance.
I mean, I think that's going to be probably, the town just wants some sort of financial support. I don't think they care if it's a letter of credit or a bond. So
Switching it up over time doesn't matter, I don't think either,
No.
does it? So if you have a bond for the first 4 years until it's built out, and then you switch to a letter of credit, I mean.
Are we okay with that shifting to a non-developer entity, which?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Doesn't require coming back for any kind of amendment. That's a ministerial act, right?
I mean, if you go to a bond, or, I mean, some letters of credit, standby letter of credit, I mean, they're the same thing, but once they're performed upon, the banks or whoever issued the bond, they go right after the people who who are paying for the bond. So, I mean, ultimately, it gets to the same spot. I think with a letter of credit or a bond, it's up to the bond issuer or letter of credit issuer to go after the people who are responsible. So it takes the town out of collecting that, and it's a lot easier to tell the town pound sand than it is you've got somebody where you have a document and you're gonna get sued by somebody you're gonna lose. So I guess I think.
We do not usually offer the second option that you said where it could be transferred to another party.
If I can just quote the town code, it states that when the Plan Commission, in its discretion, determines that a deferral of an improvement or installation is appropriate, the subdivider shall post a separate performance bond or irrevocable letter of credit in an amount determined by the Plan Commission, guaranteeing completion of the deferred improvements or installations upon demand by the town. So the code places the burden on the subdivider to post the performance bond or irrevocable letter of credit.
Not passing it on to future homeowners.
Right.
Right.
And I guess, Mike, knowing that provision, I would say that we would also be asking for an ability to replace the bond with the letter of credit or vice versa there.
So the amount, can we have the staff do estimates, and then at some later date, we would, on the record, state that the bond is set? Is that how we would handle it?
I imagine the process would fold during the plating process, and that our Department of Public Works would also have a voice in determining what the appropriate bond amount or credit amount should be.
And just a clarification, I don't know if it's been discussed, the timing of the deferral? And I guess maybe what the triggering event is there?
Well, the Plan Commission can determine that. If they make a motion for a deferral, they have to indicate what the trigger is.
I guess that was a
And
question.
It could be 5 years, it could be when there's a connection. That trigger is up to the commission.
Would the Plan Commission consider establishing that trigger now?
They would have to if they deny the waiver but grant the deferral, they would be doing that tonight. That's been our custom. They would be deciding the trigger in a motion for the deferral.
Understood. So I'm asking for clarification on what that trigger would be, right? So
Yeah, I think it would be when the town determines that they want to have the sidewalk put in. Is it?
All it says is upon demand by the town.
Yeah, so.
Is that around the contiguous, like coming out there, or is that?
Doesn't say. It could be.
Could we include in our waiver a delay in that? Because, right, based on that, the town could decide tomorrow to put the trail in.
It's interesting because we had a piece of property in Marion County, and it's literally, we subdivided a gas station that was in between properties, and we asked for a waiver, we'll post bond. They said, no, put the sidewalk in now. I mean, it's like 120 feet of sidewalk, and they said, we want it now, and it's never going to connect to anything. But, I mean, so I think by granting a deferral, at least, you're not getting stuck with that. So I think it's going to be just up to the town when they determine that it's, I don't think the town's going to say we want the money and build it, but without anything being connected, I think they've got a plan, so.
I would draw the Plan Commission's attention to the property to the west, perhaps at least the Plan Commission. I don't, Jody, I didn't know if you had an aerial that included, yes, thank you. Maybe the Plan Commission would at least have a dialogue or make it part of their motion to have the triggering event be implementation of a trail on the property there to the west. We think from a connectivity perspective, that timing probably makes the most sense as the property to the west. When the property to the west is developed, that's really when the connectivity would occur, not between my client's property and this gentleman's property or the minor subdivision there.
I'd have a hard time doing that, given the fact that, they've got a path, pathways plan of some sort, so I think it would be.
We may defer those for a period of time as well. If that property to the west developed, we may be doing the exact same thing because, again, it's not a long enough piece possibly to.
Yeah, agreed. I think it would contemporaneous event, right? So when the Plan Commission and the town were to require a perimeter pathway for the property to the west, that would also trigger Saddle Creek Farms' obligation.
I'm reluctant to tie the town's hands.
I guess we're getting, yeah.
Well, and there's, if you
in
look
that sense.
on the south of this, on Cooper Road, there is already a pathway in place. I know that's, south of 96th Street. However, that path is already there. So you already technically have something coming up from the south.
There is.
And, if we already have something in place, on that minor plat in between, and if there is something that, already shows coming from the north from the town, I wouldn't want to, like I said, tie the hands of the town on that.
I've seen developments like this where the residents get in there and they now want connectivity to Oak Street, and they want to be able to ride their bike safely. And, you know, if that interchange or that overpass gets improved and has a side path or has a, I mean, I could see them very much wanting to do that, even though it doesn't necessarily make sense to us today, but I could see that connectivity, even for a smaller number of people, being requested. I believe this will actually, the connectivity will happen sooner than we think than later. I just do. I think that there's movement in our community as well as most communities for more and more connectivity.
Especially with it being, you know, you go north on Cooper Road, we just, you know, with it turns into Marysville Road, and it doesn't take, you know, it's not gonna take long.
The other thing is, we're talking about 14 lots, 3 plus acres. I don't know what the homes on there are gonna be, but if, let's say they have to commit $20,000 per lot to build this in the future, or, you know, pay that. I don't think that $20,000 is gonna make a difference on the amount that they're gonna be spending between the lot and the house. So I think, you know, I think we beat this to death,
Yeah.
so.
I mean,
I would agree.
if we have a 100-lot subdivision, why should smaller subdivisions get a benefit that the larger subdivisions don't? So, I mean, to me, it's equitable. Those costs get passed on to the property owners. I think it's generous to defer it and give them options that we wouldn't do for larger subdivisions.
I mean, it's really gonna be whatever, you know, financial support or, you know, backstop that's acceptable to the town is whatever it is. If it's escrow, letter of credit, bond, you know, performance bond, so. All right, any other things else on this one?
I would move that the requested waiver for installation of required perimeter pathways be denied as presented and discussed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mike, would you please take roll?
Sorry, that was, Brad was the motion.
Yep, aye.
Seconded.
By Jim.
Second by Jim. So, Brad Johnson.
Aye.
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
David Franz.
Aye.
Kendrick Davis.
Aye.
Nick Plopper.
Aye.
The waiver has been denied.
All right, so the next one is the deferral.
Well, if the,
So it's to,
the deferral is, right, okay.
So you want to modify it to deferral with appropriate financial, I mean,
yeah,
what do you- I mean-
yeah, flexibility in the.
Yeah, or it just make sure that we're granting the deferral, but included in that is there a requirement to post appropriate financial support, whether it's bond, letter of credit, escrow.
I just say as he said.
I just wonder, does it matter whether it is a bond or?
Well, for their clarity, I think
I don't
we
think it
can.
matters.
Because that can be a determination made later, if it's all the same.
I think as long as it meets the administration's requirement, we're.
Because the
we're
code
good.
does give them the option
And-
of whether it's a letter of credit or a bond.
It may be unique in the fact that they want to switch it midstream, and that's fine. I think that's the only thing we'd be declaring. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I move that deferral for installation of required perimeter pathways be conditionally approved, subject to posting of a performance bond, letter of credit, or escrow appropriate to secure performance of the future construction of the pathways. I think that's enough.
I would add timing that's acceptable to the town of Zionsville.
5 years?
No, it would be up to, I mean, so I'm just, so let's pull that one, let's just pull that one back, okay? Let's pull-
Strike the motion.
So I guess the question is, so if we grant the deferral, does the town say we want the bond right now? Or what is the timing of that? Mike, do you
Yes,
know?
they'll require that the bond be posted prior to recording the plat, allowing the plat to be recorded.
But still, but you're granting a deferral to some date, either some date certain or an event in the future, and that needs to be
That would
defined.
trigger.
And you could say when the Department of Public Works notifies someone, or when there's a connection somewhere, or after a certain period of time, but we still need that to be defined.
What does it say exactly?
And it said, the subdivider shall post a performance bond or irrevocable letter of credit in an amount determined by the Plan Commission, guaranteeing completion of the deferred improvements or installations upon demand by the town.
Okay. All right, so then the question is, we're gonna have to come back and the staff's gonna have to come up with a number for what the bond is gonna be, and then the Plan Commission has to approve it.
Or you could say, as
the staff determines.
based upon an engineer's estimate,
Okay.
is the magic language usually.
Okay, you got that?
Go, Nick. Let me take another stab at this. So I will move that, I move for a deferral of the installation of required perimeter pathways be conditionally approved, subject to a performance bond, an irrevocable letter of credit, or escrow as may be required for the future construction of the perimeter pathways at a time to be decided by the town of Zionsville or any of its political sub-bodies.
In the amount?
In an amount
Based upon an engineer's estimate.
based upon an engineer's estimate to complete construction of the perimeter pathways.
This is why I passed it to you. I'll second that, though.
Is that just a percentage of the total amount?
The bond is usually a percentage of what it would cost to
Yeah.
construct it today.
So if the town says the pathways is 300,000, you know, the bond company, it could be anywhere depending upon, it could be 0.75%, up 2% based upon what they deem the creditworthiness, so.
Is the developer allowed to to replace the security?
As acceptable to the town of Zionsville. I mean, that's what I would
Yeah,
say.
he had included all three options.
Yeah, I would say, to clarify, subject further to substitution of a irrevocable letter of credit for a performance bond or vice versa, as the developer may so choose, subject to the town of Zionsville's approval.
I think there's a motion somewhere in all of that.
I would second that.
Roger's over here writing it down.
So we have a motion and a
We're
second.
writing all kinds of stuff down.
Any further
But we'll
discussion?
listen to the,
Mike, would you please take roll?
Nick Plopper.
Aye.
Brad Johnson. David Franz.
Aye.
Kendrick Davis.
Aye.
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
So we gotta commit to ourselves, when this comes up again, we know what we've done, and we won't spend a half hour talking about it again.
Except that we have done this before.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying, we've gone, we know what to do, so.
I'll make sure it's not me next time, Jim.
Now you need a motion on the plan.
What's that?
Now you need a motion on the plan.
Yes, so we need a motion on the plat.
All right, I can do that one. I move that docket number 2025-60-PP, a primary plat for 14 residential lots on approximately 58.8 acres in the equestrian residential RE district, be conditionally approved based on the findings of the staff report, staff recommendations, and submitted findings of fact as presented and discussed. The conditions shall be resolved as part of the secondary plating and permitting process as required by staff, and request or inclusive of the ponds looking as blob-ish as possible. I know that's a technical term, but round off those corners a little bit if you
All
could,
right,
please.
is there a second to that one?
Second.
Seconds from
Just for the blob.
Kendrick, thank you.
And any further discussion? Mike, would you please take roll?
Brad Johnson. Aye. Kendrick Davis.
Aye.
Nick Plopper.
Aye.
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
David Franz.
Aye. That motion carries 6-0. Now we need one on the development plan.
5-0, I think, actually, Mr. Franz.
5-0? Yeah, okay. What did I say, 4?
We-
Oh, 5. Okay, sorry. 5-0, I stand corrected.
Do we have the development plan motion?
That's in there.
Oh, it's on the next staff item. I think we've discovered, too, that we may not be needing to do these in the future. Is that right? Development
Correct.
plans for residential?
Correct.
We may be changing that?
Correct.
All right. So it's your request that we still do that for this one, correct?
Yes, they've
Okay.
applied for the petition.
All right, I move that docket number 2025-61-DP, Development Plan for Saddle Creek Farms Subdivision be conditionally approved, subject to resolution of items noted within the commitment letter, Exhibit 5, and installation of perimeter, I'm sorry, that, we skipped that, right? Because we've deferred that? And staff recommendations and findings of fact.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mike, would you please take roll?
Brad Johnson?
Aye.
Kendrick Davis?
Aye.
Jim Hurst?
Aye.
David Franz?
Aye.
Nick Plopper?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks. All right.
If I may interrupt real quick, because normally at this point, I'm going to hand off the findings of fact to be signed. Because of some changes in the motions and things like that, we're going to need to revise the findings, so we'll have them for you at next month's meeting to sign
Okay.
for this.
All right.
Thank you.
Duly noted, yeah. Thank you.
New business, 2025-64 DP, F.A. Wilhelm, construction on behalf of Kreider and Kreider, Inc., Kreider and Kreider Commercial Office Building, 10885 Creek Way, Zionsville. Development plan for 22,500 square foot commercial building, office building, and corporate headquarters on 2.49 acres, Lot 2 of Creekside Corporate Park.
Me.
Roger?
Thank you. As mentioned before you for consideration is approval of a development plan for 22,500 square foot commercial office building and corporate headquarters on lot number 2 in Creekside Corporate Park. For reference, up on the screen, I have a location map with the subject site outlined. You'll see Creek Way that runs through Creekside Corporate Park. Here along this side is 106th Street. Over in this area would be the RLL development. This would be the GRP development. And we have the DK Pierce development at this location. Moving forward to the zoning map, the subject site as well as all of Creekside Corporate Park is zoned PUD. Property to the north is single-family residential zoned RSF2. And then an area up in this area is SU8 as its park area. Vehicular access, well, let me jump ahead to some of the exterior views of the proposed development. I don't believe these were included in your packet, so that's why I wanted to hit those first. Just to give an idea of some of the building elevations that have been reviewed also by the Creekside Corporate Park Architectural Board. And they have reviewed through these and approved the building elevations. You'll notice the way that this building is structured, there is a significant difference in ground elevation from the front of the building, which you see here, to the rear of the building, which is back behind. Matter of fact, it even gives the appearance on the front of being a two-story building, where here in the back, it appears as a three-story building. So again, just different renderings provided, which have been reviewed and approved. This is the site plan for the development. Again, vehicular access off of Creek Way would come into a parking area with the building located here on the far end. One unique feature about this proposal is that the proposed building of 22,500 square feet would require a total of 79 parking spaces. The applicant proposes to build 50 at the time of the initial construction, as the entire building will not be occupied upon opening. When the building's owner applies for a tenant finish improvement location permit for the remaining portions of the building, the remaining 29 parking spaces will be required at that time. The location of these future parking spaces is identified on the submitted site plan, and they were and the approval of these future parking spaces is a part of this development plan. And to be specific, the future parking areas are outlined in bubbles here. There's, I believe, 3 of them. We have another set down here, and then the final set of future parking here. So again, upon initial construction, those would not be included, but as the entirety of the building is finished out, they would have to apply for tenant finish permits, and as those come in, these future parking spaces would be constructed at that time. So just to be clear, these future parking spaces, as they are part of this development plan, would not have to come back for future approval from you. This development plan is approving those future spaces. All of the landscaping that is planned for the development has also been reviewed as if those future parking spaces were constructed. So we're already accounting for those. I mentioned that the Creekside Architectural Board had reviewed the project. They have provided a conditional letter of approval itemizing 3 things that still need to be addressed. One is light spillage from onto adjacent properties. The second involves the landscaping of the site. Just some additional landscaping needs to be added in a couple places. And the final item is a review of the proposed monument sign. Monument signs are not prohibited within Creekside, but it is, the PUD does specify that the Architectural Review Board wants to review each monument sign rather than just give a blanket, yes, they're permitted. So again, those 3 items have been noted within the Creekside review document. Staff recommends conditional approval of this development plan subject to resolution of the outstanding review items identified in the comment letters, Exhibits 5A and 5B. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Roger. Does the petitioner have anything to add? Comment?
Good evening. Chris Holyfield. I'm a civil engineer with F.A. Wilhelm Construction, 3914 Prospect Street, Indianapolis, Indiana. Steve Kreider, the owner, I believe is online. And then we also have the architects, Michelle and Tom here. It's been a long night. And so...
Yeah. Sorry to make you
You're not
wait.
asking for a sidewalk waiver, right?
No, we have a sidewalk to the road. It has to meet ADA standards, and so there's actually a path already that we're going to tie into the path that is out there, so that's already planned for. The parking stalls, I'd like to update it. So currently, there's only going to be 40 employees. The PUD does actually kind of refer to, they want less parking in this area, but the code does, the way the code is written, it requires a lot of parking per square footage. This is an open kind of office footprint, and so the parking code doesn't really align with kind of how the actual footprint is laid out. And so Steve, the owner, has said, you know, up front, 40 employees, 50 spaces will be plenty. When they go in to remodel, to increase the offices, to increase the employee count, that is when they will come in and increase or rather build the next phase of the parking. Oh, yes, and I think there was a mention in the staff report about this being a multi-tenant. This is actually a single tenant building, one owner. So, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, is there anybody in the public like to comment on this one? So, no, so we'll close the public comment period. Members of the Plan Commission?
Did you guys have any feedback on the letter from the Architectural Review Committee, Creekside's, as far as they had requested some lighting guidelines, landscape guidelines, ground signs? Just, is there any issues there with you guys?
There are no issues. No, we will get those addressed. I believe some of the landscape was some additional shrubs for parking lots and lighting. Yet, but those will get addressed. No issues.
I was on the redevelopment commission when this came through, kind of, the sale of the property and all of that. So I'm pretty aware of the owner and what you're wanting to do there. I support the project. It looks great. Architecture looks great. Thank you. I think we were all a little concerned that we were going to see excavators and other heavy equipment there on a regular basis. Mr. Kreider was kind enough to direct us that this is a corporate headquarters, and even though they are an excavation, road building, is that correct, company, that we're not going to see extra storage of big vehicles there. It looks great. I don't have any questions. I think land banking the parking spaces until they're actually needed makes a lot of sense. I actually wrote the PUD for this as well many years ago, so I'm familiar with the regulations, and it looks like you've nailed it.
I would say that the building looks really good.
Great.
Anything else? Is there a motion on this?
I move that docket number 2025-64-DP, a development plan for 22,500 square feet commercial office building and corporate headquarters on a 2.49 plus or minus acres, or Lot 2 in the Creekside Corporate Park PUD, be conditionally approved based on, number 1, the findings in the staff report and the staff recommendations, number 2, submitted findings of fact, number 3, subject to resolution of outstanding review items identified by the comment letters exhibits 5A and 5B.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second is by, sorry.
Nick.
Any further discussion? Mike, would you please take roll?
Hendrick Davis.
Aye.
Nick Plopper.
Aye.
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
David Franz.
Aye.
Brad Johnson, 5-0.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great job.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This long night.
Yeah.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, come on.
Do you want me to tell you when?
Like on me. Zionsville, 2025-65 DPA, Zionsville Youth Soccer Association, Zionsville Soccer Field Lighting, 5616 South 700 East Zionsville, Development Plan Amendment for the addition of lighting on a second field.
Jose is, I'm glad to introduce Jose Trujillo, mentioned him at previous Plan Commission meeting.
Yep.
Gets to do his first staff report this evening.
All right.
Go easy on me. Thank you for that introduction, Roger. So, Zionsville Youth Soccer Association is requesting a development plan amendment petition for soccer field lighting upgrades. The subject address is 5616 South 700 East, Whitestown, Indiana. Again, the subject site is located on the west side of 700 East, approximately half a mile from north of Oak Street, with the majority of the south and west sides abutting Whitestown's jurisdiction. The overall site is about 50.77 acres and is accessed via County Road 700 East. And then the specific portion of the site that is receiving the new lighting is located in the southwest quadrant of the soccer complex, which is noted right there. And then if you could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, and then to give more detail on the actual request itself, the development plan amendment is for the installation of 4 new light poles with a height of 80 feet. Could you go to the next slide? The next one after that. With new lighting fixtures on one of the existing soccer fields, the installation of the new lighting on the existing soccer field is considered an intensification of the current use and thus requires a development plan review. The site is currently has an illuminated field. Could you go back to the previous one? Has a currently illuminated field, and with this DPA would increase it to 2 fields being illuminated. And then regarding the actual zoning of the area, the majority of the lot, could you go to the next slide, please? One more. Yeah, the majority of the lot is zoned rural general agricultural, with the northeast corner zoned rural professional business PB district, which is improved with a building related to the club's operation. And then to the north, it's bordered by an 8-acre single-family home zoned rural single-family residential. On the west, most of the west side is in, again, Whitestown's jurisdiction. However, the remaining northwest corner is covered by Boone Meadow Elementary, which is zoned SU1, special use for schools. On the south, Again, most of the south is in Whitestown's jurisdiction, with the remaining southeast corner occupied by single-family home zoned rural single-family residential. And then on the east, across from 700 East, is Zionsville West Middle School's 69-acre campus, zoned SU1 as well. And you also have Zionsville Fire Station 93, which is zoned R1. And then for the zoning analysis, the project must comply with section 194.082, table 2, authorized uses, and table 6, commercial, industrial, and other non-residential requirements. Staff is satisfied that the DPA complies with the standards of the zoning ordinance, except for the wavelength and color temperature lighting standards. However, the petitioner received a development plan standards variance 2025-12-DSV to reduce the wavelength and exceed color temperature requirements, and is thus compliant. Staff's position is favorable regarding the proposed development plan amendment. Happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you. You're just handling this for the petitioner, or is the petitioner present online? Nope, okay. All right, so is anybody in the public want to have any comment? I'm going to take that as a no, so we'll close that. Anybody from the Planning Commission have any questions, comments?
Try and just make sure I understand. So Exhibit 2 and Exhibit 3 kind of show a bigger box around two different fields, but it looks like then in Exhibit 5, it's really just one field that's going to have lights surrounding it. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So, well, they're adding new lighting poles to that one in blue, and then the other one already has.
Yeah, I just want, on that drawing where the blue circle is.
Yeah.
In the earlier exhibits, it actually circles the field
to
to the top of that. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. That was just the approximate location at the time of that the map was made, so we weren't exactly sure until we got clarification later on. So that one is a little bit more misleading, but that one's the accurate one.
That was there, Brad, on Sunday. My son played a game on this field. The bases for the light poles are already there. And so it's the field that's to the east. There's the four corners, essentially, lights will be there.
So the illustration, Exhibit 5, I don't know, there's a lot of Exhibit 5s.
Exhibit 5 is out on the side, so north is,
Yeah.
north is facing, I guess would be pointing east on looking at it, so to the right.
I guess for staff, is there any issues with the existing field? Have we had complaints or concerns over those lights? Are they in compliance with the regulations? And so we're not kind of adding to a problem already existing?
A photometric study was provided and for the new field, and it does not cause any problems on adjacent properties. The existing field was done, I believe we were told, anywhere from 20 to 30 years ago.
Okay.
And there's been no complaints registered with us regarding that existing field.
The BCA heard testimony about how the association was selecting the field toward the center and not along the edges so as to not have as much impact on the neighbors.
Yeah, I'm just prodding a little bit. I support it. I just wanted to make sure we've asked the right questions. I like that they're using cutoff fixtures.
Anything else?
I can't
Now
think
is
of
our
anything
motion.
else. Have they committed to a time frame? Like, are they going to run these till midnight sometimes during tournaments? Or are they putting any caps on? Or do we have regulations that say ball fields can only be lit for certain hours of the day? I'm just curious.
We do not have anything, we did not pursue that line of questioning with them.
They made representations at the BZA. This came up at the BZA.
Okay.
I don't have my notes in front of me, but they do have, they do limit how late the games start.
Okay.
And they did present that at the BZA, and I know that that was a concern the BZA had, but they felt comfortable once they were given the information.
I do not recall the details, but I recall the conversation Mr. Taylor describes.
So there's some kind of commitment as part of the approval that they've made.
Yeah, their operation plan would,
Okay.
fell within reason.
Perfect. Yeah, I think.
I move that docket number 2025-65-DPA, Development Plan Amendment for the installation of 4 new light poles with a height of 80 feet and lighting fixtures on one of the existing soccer fields at 5616 South 700 East be approved based on the findings of fact in the staff report.
Is there a second? Second. Any further comment? Mike, would you please take roll?
Nick Flopper.
Aye.
Kendrick Davis.
Aye.
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
David Franz.
Aye.
Brad Johnson.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Other matters to be considered, Holiday Farm Senior Living. Mike, Roger, who's handling that one?
Holiday Farm Senior Living.
was just for
Other matters
information.
to be considered, minor development plan amendment regarding a revised landscape plan.
Oh, that. Okay.
Oh, that.
No action required, or just a?
No action
This-
required.
Yeah, there's no action required, but we are required to report this to the Plan Commission in writing. The development plan for the Holiday Farm Senior Living Development, which was approved as docket number 2024-20-DP, back in April of 2024. That development plan included a full landscape package for the overall site. That landscape plan, though, met the minimum standards, so therefore it was approved. The developer, though, has come back now, and he wants to put in an enhanced landscape plan. He wants to go above and beyond. He has submitted additional landscaping plans, and so for the record, to make that the plan of record, this qualifies as a minor development plan amendment, something that does not require a public hearing, but it does require staff approval from the building commissioner, and then that we announce that and make you aware that basically the plan has changed. And so that is what we are doing now. We are getting an enhanced landscape package for that project. There is no action required by you. We are simply reporting it to you.
The rules of procedure and code interpretation.
Yes. Code interpretation regarding major residential subdivisions. We have come to a conclusion that major residential subdivisions are not subject to development plan review, and this conclusion is based on the language in our ordinance that requires a development plan for new construction. But what is a development plan? And so we looked up the definition for a development plan, and it includes major residential subdivisions. Includes multifamily subdivisions, commercial and industrial subdivisions. No reference to residential subdivisions. And so we've come to the conclusion that the petitioner need not ask the Plan Commission for development plan approval for major residential subdivisions. It's a heads up for you. Of course, you'll still be looking at these during the plating process.
With the exception of, if a major residential subdivision falls within the Michigan Road overlay.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
A development plan is still required, and if a major subdivision area is within a PUD, and the PUD requires a development plan approval, you will then see that. But if a major residential subdivision falls outside of those areas, you will not see it as a development plan. You will see it as a primary plat, but you will not see it as a development plan. We've gone back and looked at historically how many of these you may have looked at that you didn't need to, and we're coming up with less than a handful. So this is very rare, but we did want to make you aware of this change.
All right. Rules of procedure.
Right. I apologize to the Plan Commission. I have not yet drafted a revision to our rules of procedure regarding the development plan process. You may recall that we were working on some changes to how we process and present projects for certain types of development plans. So I'm still in the process of working on that. I apologize for the delay. I expect and hope to present that information to you next month.
And Senate Enroll Act 425, we learned a little bit about that tonight.
We did, maybe a little early. I'm just gonna, the really big issues is, there's a new procedure in this new bill which now says that if you send a recommendation for a text amendment to the town council, the town council is gonna decide that, and they're never gonna send it back to you. Under previous law, if they disagreed with you, it had to come back to you, where you could vote again that you disagreed with them, and you would send it back to them, and they could vote again, they disagreed with you. So the legislature's eliminated that. It's now gonna be a one-step, not a Texas two-step, it's gonna be one step, and that was the big thing about Senate Enroll Act 25. Then inside there, the legislature, I think, hid a couple surprises. One was what I talked about tonight about permits, and you'll see planned unit developments are considered a permit for purposes of 1109, which is a vested rights law, and that means we now have a shot clock on those. So you guys did a good job on that. And you have the memo, just a couple other things. Some of these are staff related, I'm gonna skip those, but what you need to know is this: there are new stormwater laws that say we cannot have in any of our ordinances rules which are more stringent than what IDEM requires. And so we don't, and we'll be doing that. You also, there is and that was 1037 in House Enrolled Act 1460. They gave us a dose of what they want us to do in our ordinances. And they said now that when we use ordinances to tell developers how to calculate runoff, we have to use FEMA and NOAA information, and we can't use whatever we want. And that was because there was great disparity and the engineering firms didn't know what to do. So, so you have already approved that subdivision control amendment, and the town council's already passed it, so you've done this. But they hid in 1460 another shot clock, and now they said plats all have their own separate shot clocks now, so you'll be dealing with that in the future as well. The shot clock rule, which again, I'm not a fan at all of them, and I thought that Mr. Johnson did a good job tonight of saying, why, which is, boy, it sure makes us hard to work with you if we can't have time to work with you. And so that's why I think it's a bad idea. It's a rather simplistic view of how it actually works that our legislature has. I wish they would reconsider that. But those new laws took effect July 1, and you should be aware.
With what we did tonight, they waived their right across the board for that shot clock. Will they have the opportunity potentially in the future to say, we'll waive it, but we would like it done within a certain period of time?
They waived it for this continuous tonight. They didn't waive it forever of all time, but.
Okay.
So, yeah, all we can do, the right to the shot clock is the petitioner's right. So if a petitioner will waive it, then most planning attorneys think that's okay. The statute says that's okay, but we don't have any cases on it yet. And so.
Is there a cap there as far as time goes?
On a waiver, no.
Okay.
But I will be asking them every time.
Okay.
We'll be asking, we're just establishing a record. They said they were waiving.
We'll be at 50 days on the very first time it comes to us, if it comes to us as fast as possible.
Right. So with every continuance, you'll need to ask the question.
Well, you kind of brought this up, that this makes it a lot more critical that the PUD ordinance itself is thought out, spelled, more is put into it prior to the first submission, so.
And I would also say, you may have noticed the reaction is, even though this was to benefit the development community, I don't think people are aware. I think you saw that tonight too.
Yeah, so. Very surprised by that.
So there is I brought it up in committee earlier, is possibly to ask for, usually there's a pre-application meeting. So if we can kind of work with them on their PUD pre-application, then the clock doesn't start. So we can maybe get some of these issues resolved even before they start the clock. So we may have to revise the procedure a little bit to see if we can get a little bit more traction with them before they even start that clock.
Seems like there's a lot of last-minute submissions where they're reacting to the staff report, and then we get all of a sudden some amendments come through on the same day as the meeting. So that makes it hard to engage.
And then you got preliminary calendar for next year, so.
Well, they either have to withdraw before the 90 days if they think they're going to get unfavorable, or we vote unfavorably if it's not ready, or they grant us that waiver. So it's kind of, I don't want them to have to withdraw and then reapply. That seems like a big step for them. Plus, they have to prove that things are different.
I think they have to read the room and say, if there's so much that this isn't gonna get done with 1 or 2 continuances, then they're gonna have to do something, or they'll just have to keep granting that waiver, so, but.
Well, I am reminded by this schedule, my term is up at the end of this year. I don't know if I'll be reappointed or not. So I'll just add in there, one thing I've learned in my 2.5 years on this is, if you let them negotiate with you in the meeting, that's what they're always going to try to do. And so I recused myself. I didn't participate. I did watch it, but I thought Mr. Johnson managed it well, that you're going to have to sharpen up your document. And it's very fair to ask of these folks.
One thing I've done with some communities, some of my clients, is to actually create a template that instead of every attorney writing their own or the developers writing their own, they usually borrow from this one and that one, and it ends up being this cobbled mess. Yeah. And if we can give them a framework to submit and they just fill in the blanks or fill in the paragraphs that are needed, that should speed things up quite a bit too. They're not going to overlook content that should be in there.
Right, and we could even make them show the document changes. If they change anything in the template, we could make them show the staff the track of that, and that would would streamline the review for you and the members. I like that.
One thing that, when they have sub districts, like this one has 5, I think, different subcategories, to me, they should have a separate section for each one. So if you want signs in section A, write out your sign regulations for section A. And then if you don't want them for the rest of them, they don't include anything for the rest of them. But they try to blend everything into one document for all these different districts, and that's what gets them into trouble more than anything. Like I said today, signs are permitted, wall signs are permitted for every house in that development, the way they wrote it. But I know they didn't intend to do that, but if they would have had a separate section for each one of the subsections, they could have avoided that.
All right, anything else? Oh, did we mention it, the calendar's there.
I reviewed it. I already, if I'm reappointed, I already let staff know the one meeting I know I'm missing.
There should be a motion.
Okay,
Yeah, okay, so.
I move we approve the calendar as presented.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
The calendar is approved 5-0. Anything else?
I move we adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye. We might be able to catch the second football game.
2 minutes left before the time we have to expend.
Beat the buzzer. We suspend the rules. They're after 10.
Who's in the second game?